Totally kidding. Totally kidding. Missed my calling as a bad stand-up. Thank you for being here. You all represent builders, owners, operators, people who are curious about learning things, whether it's about skill sets, tools, or just trying to connect into community. And this is where I parlay to Jesse is. Jesse, what this is Jesse's community that come together. And Jesse's community curating their community into a room to be able to share knowledge and experience and opportunity. So I just wanted to take a couple seconds to say thank you, Jesse, for the things that you have done over the course of the last year plus with the DevSA community and allowing us to have the relationship that we do now with 434 Media and really presenting something to the community in the form of digital canvas. That being able to offer workshops and conferences and being able to tell your stories and hopefully in the future create some products and some tooling. But today being that inaugural event and there being a lot of intention behind the entire event. More human than human was on purpose. This is not a this or that conversation. This is not a one way to solve the world's problems environment. What it really is a plus environment. And in Digital Canvas, this is what we intend to do, is continue to reach into the ecosystems, into the communities, into the knowledge pools that we know exist to be able to bring them together with purpose, to be able to share in the future and that future happening right now. So, Jesse, thank you so much for bringing us together here today. Really appreciate you. Without further ado, Jesse Hernandez.
Oh, Marcus, you're too kind. And I'm mic'd up ready. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about the DevSA part. The video with More Human Than Human is truly a conference that's powered by the DevSA community, and I take a lot of pride in a lot of the relationships and partnerships I've been able to help create through our growing network. But I know there's a lot of new faces here, so who has not heard the DevSA story? Who's hearing about DevSA for the first time? I love it. So I'm going to keep it brief because we do have a tight schedule, and the goal is to truly try to be done at 5 o'clock so we can enjoy happy hour and truly network together. But DevSA, let me show you this website real quick, because what I will say, our core mission is right on our website. So our website is devsa.community, and my big mission statement as our community platform is ultimately, I always tell folks, DevSA is never going to be the final destination, but we're definitely that bridge because of all the unique partnerships and all the unique relationships that we have, where it's the platform that allows you to find your people and really use the community to help build your future, build your network. And that's really what DevSA is at its core. We have a lot of great relationships. We have UTSA in the house. We have Xander, who's going to be going over some of the student organizations. We have partnerships with TechBlock, Geekdom, of course, everything that's kind of tied into 434 Media. But that is ultimately DevSA's goal, is using our platform to make it easy for everyone else to find their community. Even for little stuff like events, calendars. How do I find an event? Like, how do I find other events like More Human Than Human? You don't have to go to Meetup. You don't have to go to Luma. Our website, find your next event, build your network. It's one calendar that has all the events for the 23 other active groups in the city of San Antonio. Specialty groups like that are language specific, like .NET, like Python. Language groups that are focused on data engineering. We got deep into house and data knots, and more. So there's one calendar. Find all the events. The one thing that I love about what I did with the calendar is you can click on an event. Let's pick on the event that's happening next week with DD and Alamo Python. You can see the details, who's organizing it, all the information, but even down below, what is Alamo Python? What is Data Knots? You have all the information for all the active groups in the city of San Antonio instantly available to you through our website, with the goal again of making it easy for you to find your people. But that's that. I'll sprinkle in more DevSA info throughout the day. But really, this event is really about shining the light on our community. So one of the things that I've been very fortunate with DevSA is, let's see here, one second here, is the people I get to meet, folks that are way more smart than I am, way more experienced, just different lenses. And an event like More Human and Human, a quarterly conference, the one thing that I've really tried to do with this conference, and if you guys have been following the social media, you'll see it, but specifically curating a lineup that allows us to get viewpoints from different perspectives, different industries, different lenses. What you're going to see tonight with More Human and Human is we're going to have Wes kicking us off in a second. That's going to be sharing his lens and his perspective as someone that's been a director and executive director overseeing teams that are building tech that scale. So just being able to kind of get a peek of all of his knowledge from all of his history in the industry. But then going from there, we have Warner here, somewhere out there, but Warner in the back over there, senior software engineer at the Disney company, Walt Disney. Making a pivot because his passion has been music and game design. So we're going to be able to get a lens of how Warner's been using Godot to with AI to kind of activate his music platform he's created. We're going to have folks like Samad in the back. That's going to be and even Daniel in the back, our Microsoft MVP in the house, going over agents. What is an agent? How do you build an agent? Let's build it from scratch. Just so we'll have a little piece there. And we have our security folks, Dirce in the back, and we've got Ms. Jacqueline over here. So we'll be able to also take advantage of our network to integrate how security is being used in the AI space. And I don't know if I'm missing a blank. Let's say we got security, we got data design, we got marketing. I don't think Sabrina's here. That's probably still here, but also how AI is being used in the go-to-market strategy for a lot of companies. So it's just really cool that I can leverage the community, the network to come together for an event like this to just share knowledge to the folks that want to learn, that want to build, the folks that are active in the city in the year 2026. With that said, land the plane, Jesse. I'm going to make my segue over here to Wes. Wes is going to make your way up to the front. Super excited to finally feature Wes to a DevSA audience. I first met Wes through a person named Christian. Christian ran a group called, initially, he started a San Antonio data science group, ended up working with an AITX group, but through Christian's network, I was able to meet folks like Wes and Jennifer Pye, and just some really, really sharp people that are gratefully in a position where they're willing to share and give back. So Wes, thank you so much for being here. Let me get your screen ready to share. And I will quit talking and I will say, Wes, thank you again. The floor is yours.
I'm glad that you wanted me to take that mic?
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said how we met because somebody else asked me that. I said, I have no idea. We just kind of showed up and like,
and that's how things happen sometimes.
And what I can say is that, for sure, as soon as I met Jesse, I was like, yeah, I like this guy. This guy's cool. And, we've done a couple of things.
We're going to get on there.
I'm afraid to drop it. But, all right, we'll see if that works. We've done a couple of things, my wife and I with him, and
yeah. Oh, no, it's a mini mic if needed.
Jesse is the ultimate connector, and, more human than human, but, like, he's, like, the best human. So we have to thank him for all these things that he does, and it's spent a lot of his own time, excessive amount of time to these things. So when Jesse feed me, I was like, I'll do anything you want. I can talk on various levels of AI. Apparently, I'm going to be like least technical talk here, which is not usually the case.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to geek out on some other stuff more technical later, we can do that at the happy hour. I built this talk originally for a women's leadership group a couple of weeks ago that asked me to work with it, and it was surprisingly popular. And so when this came up, I said, well, I have this ready. And so my goal today here is to work about, there's a lot of but everybody's kind of active. So an article that came out, I want to say a week or two ago, to show that basically like 90% of people don't use AI right now, This is probably not the case in this room. I imagine most everybody here that tries to play with it is actively using it, but most people either don't use it or they're only using it, they're unaware they're using it, right? And so I want us to kind of think about this in a couple of levels, and it sounds like we're going to have some great talks to some of the higher levels. But the first level is a non-user. Second level is AI's tool. The thing I want to talk to you about is getting into AI as a partner. And that's going to be the bulk of what I chat about here. And then looking towards AI as an employee for you. And then you have people like me and some of the other speakers who are the people that are building AI systems and doing research. So like on any day of the week, you know, I'm probably about a 4.2 on this scale. But at the same time, I spend a lot of my time with executives and coaching executives. And they are not using this at all, or they're like barely using it and not really thinking about it. And so it always surprises me when like very simple things are just like blown away by it. And like, oh yeah, you can do this like 3 years ago, man, but that's cool. All right, let's dig into that. Let's help you out. So the non-users are out there. Does anybody consider themselves a non-user here? I think it's very unlikely. But the non-users still make up about 80% of the population. So if you are leading groups of people, and like I spent a lot of time with my leaders, you know, if you are coaching people, if you're engaging people, you need to first understand what level they are coming at this. Are they in the non-user group, and do you need to kind of walk them into some sorts of things? With the non-users and with executives that I'm coaching right now, I try and break it into 3 levels of starting to move it into AI. And the first level is integrated. Just get yourself a text generator, get yourself an image generator, start to play with them, start to use them. Use the transcription in whatever video thing that you're using, these sorts of things. And then move into using those as augmentation. So like, how do you then take those and improve the things that you're doing now to be more efficient, and then start to look to automate? The mistake that a lot of people make in leadership is they jump on automation. They're like, AI is in the news. Let's go automate this workflow. We're going to lay off 10% of the workforce. And right now we're seeing, there's a stat that's going around, it's like 95% AI failure across the workforces. And it's accurate. I see it every day in my consulting. The other number that's floating around right now is 19% slowdown after the introduction of AI, right? That probably shocks a lot of people who have seen or heard that. But people will introduce AI and they're like, wow, I can do this so much faster. And they go fast. And it's just junk. And so AI can produce junk at rapid rates. And now you have, you know, thrown a landslide of slop at a workforce that now has to go play janitor and clean that up instead of doing whatever it was they were doing. So we have to think about these sorts of things, especially when we're introducing it to non-users. Oh, I got out of sequence. This happens. I'm a little ADHD, so I apologize. So the other side of the non-users is the researchers. Most people don't need to worry about the researchers, but most of the news stories are about the researchers. And so I would say parse those things with a level of caution, right? There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of people who are selling things. There's an old saying, don't ask a barber if you need a haircut. The AI companies are trying to convince you to use AI, and some of the stuff is not as true as it should be. But when we're talking about AI as tools, trying to be, there are core tools that you guys need to know and you guys need to be bringing in around you so that you understand how they work. One of the ways that I like to talk about these is also just not as tools, but as instruments, right? Just because you bought a guitar doesn't mean you can play guitar. Just because you bought a piano doesn't mean you can play the piano, right? Just because you own a car doesn't mean you're a NASCAR driver, right? The same thing happens with these basic tools, right? The ability to interact with text generation is becoming a skill that is like playing an instrument, right? You can strum it and you can make some noise and it might be junk, or you could be, you know, the lead guitarist, Guns N' Roses, or whoever's popular now, Bruno Mars or something, right? And there's a very big difference in those things. So if you look at this level, right, it's like playing an instrument, it's like driving a car. You need to take time and learn it and learn how to do it, right? So like, I'm really good at code things, but I don't know how to use image generation almost at all. I get my wife to do it every single time. And she blows me. All of these images were made by my wife, by the way, with AI. This whole presentation is made with AI. I didn't do it, because I'm terrible at doing the image generation. I have no idea how she got that image out of the AI or this series of images that all fit together, right? I haven't spent the time on the instrument. I've learned the guitar, but I haven't learned the piano, right? When we're looking at AI as a tool, we should be doing this. Like, I really probably should know how to use image generation better than I do, but I use text generation. I use the transcription on almost every call I'm on, right? Translation tools are almost all LLM back now. Use them. They're great. There's videos in other languages that are fantastic, and you can use a video transcription and translation app to get the content out of the video so that you can understand it. Code completion, I imagine most of the people in this room are using code completion. If you've also probably burned through thousands of tokens that annoyed you and hit your limit and had to wait 4 hours. You've probably seen it wipe out an entire file and for no reason. Or my favorite is a test failed so that AI disabled the test. Like, you have to learn how to use these sorts of things, and you have to learn how to work with it. It takes practice. On these 5 things, everybody in this room should have basic skills. You should be able to do basic things with them, and you should be able to specialize in each one of them. That said, as we move to that level where I spend a lot of my time building AI systems and kind of what some of the other guys are going to talk about, for managers and things like that, you don't need to think about this stuff for the most part, right? Again, this is a talk for leaders. This is a talk for people that are coaching other people, coaching executives. This sort of stuff it's going to be noise in a lot of cases. But there is a level above tools that you do need to get to, and that's AI as a partner. When I talk about AI as a partner, what I mean is when you're interacting, let's say you're interacting with a text generation system, there was this idea of like prompt engineering as a job that's already faded out of existence. However, prompt engineering is a skill, but context management within a series of prompts is also a skill. Okay, so as we think about, like, I want to use ChatGPT for something, right? Something more, right? Right now, a lot of people are mistakenly trying to use it like Google, or they're using it at a very shallow level, right? The skill that I would encourage you guys to do is to take it to that next level and use it as a thought partner. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. First one is ideation. This is one of those skills, though, that I was like, why am I getting text messages? Oh, this is Jesse's laptop. I don't know if y'all saw Jesse's text messages, but somebody said they're done. So that pop up there. In the ideation, right? If you just say, give me 10 ideas for something, it will generate 10 ideas, whether it has 10 ideas or not, and they will be absolutely terrible. Okay. It's a probabilistic system. Okay, it's going to go to the average. It's going to go to the mean. It's going to go to the thing that's most common. When you ask it to generate a list of 10 things, they're going to be the 10 most common things. They're not going to be 10 good ideas in your context and your things. So the thing that you have to do is you have to build up what's the space. So one of the things that I'll do when I'm doing ideation is I will first give it 4, 5, 10, a whole folder of documents and say, this is a project that I'm working on. Read these and understand them. Don't summarize them. Don't do anything else. Just kind of like get a feel for what's going on in these documents. The don't summarize them part of the interaction is important. Otherwise, it just starts spitting out a bunch of noise you don't care about, right? And then I will say, I want to have a conversation about this. Do not edit any of these files. Ask me one question at a time until I say stop. And let's go through this. And I will sometimes go 30, 40, 50 questions deep with the AI asking me questions and going back and forth. And then I'll say, now from that, generate 5 ideas for how I can solve the problem. Okay. The difference there is I'm using the AI as a thought partner. I'm using it as a soundboard. I'm using it as a whiteboard. I'm using it as something to refine my own thinking and go back and forth. And then I'm asking it to generate wildly different results. How many of you in this room have tried something like this in the way that I described it, more or less? I saw you nodding a lot, I figured. So maybe like 10 of you. For the rest of you, very, very interesting results you get. You have to spend the time to build up the context with them. So like if you think about it like as a bar chart, right? A lot of people are just dropping in the bottom 10% and then moving on. What you want to do is fill that chart and fill that fill that cup, and then use it to move into other things. Okay. Next one is research. There's really cool stuff around deep research. There's really lots of nice shallow agents. Most of the agents can do web searches and things like that. Really helpful for that. The problem is, again, most people still use this like Google, and you can change it to be a lot more. I have used deep research agents to create study plans for myself, right? Trying to teach myself how to 3D print robots. I used it to create a study plan for that. The study plan was terrible in the first pass. You have to work with it. But in a work context and in a leadership context, you can now point the agents at, if you have 5 years of your last quarterly PowerPoint presentations on your progress reports, you can point it at that presentation and say, tell me topics that have occurred over the last 3 years in these presentations that are still not solved, right? We built up a whole lot of context by pointing it at PowerPoint, strategy docs, whatever it is, reports, Confluence maybe, and then we can start asking questions on it. Those are questions that humans can't effectively do because we can't read that fast, right? Or we forget, and then we take a nap, and then we forget it again, and we go out for drinks, and we forget. AI can read it in 4 minutes. The other day, I was working with a client that had access to their Jira projects. I pointed my AI agent at their Jira project and said, scan this for the following 3 things. I'm curious what the progress this is. They read over 120 Jira issues and created a 2-page summary for me in 4 minutes. Okay? Totally different approach. You can't do those sorts of things, or you couldn't do those sorts of things before. And if you're just trying to do them in one-off, it's not the same, right? My favorite, and the last time I gave this talk, this ended up taking up 20 minutes of the conversation. Really surprised me. So if you guys key on in this again, I'm going to do a whole thing on steel manning. Who knows what steel manning is? All right, cool. Who knows what straw manning is? Right? Straw manning is the idea of setting up an easily destroyable argument so that you can make yourself look cool, basically, right? So you create a kind of a BS argument and then you blow it away. Steel manning is using processes to harden your own thinking and to harden your own arguments so that you have a stronger defense against other people's arguments. Examples of this are, here's a presentation that I'm going to present to my directors, my whatever. Tell me what questions the audience might ask, right? Tell me gaps in my thinking. What parts of this did I miss? Where did I contradict myself in this paper or in this logical thinking? The AI agents, when you load up your papers and your things, and you can have it go do other external research, you can stack these skills on top of each other, right? And then have the AI say, okay, give me 3 questions that somebody might ask, and then you can think through those questions. Do you want to then modify your presentation to address those questions up front? Or do you just want to have that in reserve for when they have them, you can think about your answer? Tell me where I contradicted myself. I wrote a white paper on spec-driven design for a client the other day, and then I fed it into, I think it was Copilot. It said, tell me where I contradicted myself, and it said, page 3, contradiction page 6, page, and it gave me like 5 of them where it wasn't that I directly contradicted myself, but I had used slightly different language in different places, and that made it confusing if you put those right next to each other. But because they were separated by 3 pages, I don't see it. I don't see that I was inconsistent because I wrote this thing over 3 weeks and I was thinking slightly different when I wrote the longer pages. Really, really fantastic technique. Again, using AI as a thought partner to harden your own things. Don't ask it to write the paper for you, but have it read the paper and tell you where you said something dumb. Right? Fantastic. Those are the 3 examples. I'm doing this a lot faster than I did the first time, so we're gonna have some time for questions, I guess. As you start to move through those, though, you can then start to think about how you can use an AI as an employee. This is the thing that people try to jump to right now, that it looks like it should work, but it really kind of doesn't, okay? But we're getting closer and closer to it, but you don't want to just offload these sorts of things. You don't want to say, like I wrote the paper on spec-driven design. Write me a paper on spec-driven design. It's going to be a terrible paper. 1, it's all brand new. 2, the research is all over the place. People are arguing about it. There's no consensus around it in the community. The AI is not going to be able to reconcile those and write a quality paper and do that human level comparative analysis, right? However, you need to start thinking about where there are spaces in your life that you can do these sort of things. Like we were talking about OpenClaw. One of the things I did with OpenClaw is I have it consolidate all the like AI newsletters that I did, strip out all the ads, and then collapse down the arguments or the articles, so I only have one version of each story, because I'll get the same story 3, 4, 5 times across different newsletters. And so like that's kind of like an administrative assistant to me, and it kind of works. But like the complicated things, they're really not there. You want to right now, anything that involves decisions, taste, style, judgment, keep those on the human side. Okay, that is where the human value is. Anything that is read this 1,000 pages and summarize it, yeah. Anything that is like, hey, bootstrap this thing, help you kind of do this sort of thing, whatever. One of the like most depressing statements I saw the other day was AI is writing nothing articles for things that no one will read, right? We, as we move into this community, need to avoid that. We need to avoid just generating noise into the system, because that is a human cognition that's not creating value. We want to avoid those sorts of things, especially if you're trying to use AI as an employee. Don't use it in cases where it's just going to create downstream problems for someone else. That's my LinkedIn. I have cards too, and I have 4 toys for the first 4 people that ask questions. So, questions? Yes, sir.
I'm in a very similar position where I speak about executive leadership. I'm wondering where you're getting your stats from, so I can take those sources so I can use them.
I do not have a good answer to that. I get, I don't even know how many newsletters that I get at this point. TLDR is one that I read. AI Daily Podcast, Nate Jones Primetime on YouTube. Anything that I can, I bring them in. Those ones were pretty popular, and the ones that I threw out were pretty popular in the last couple of weeks. That's where mostly TLDR is a really good one for the baseline. Here you go. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that you're an AI consultant. For those interested in getting into this space, what do you recommend?
We're getting into the space. Go out, break things, play, test it, smash your head against the wall, learn things, break things, break things, break things, break things. That's the way to do it, man. Here you go. Okay.
Nice.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, what is the advice for a CEO organization? I can show you a face like AI. With your advice.
Don't place your employees. So I tend to fall not on. Oh, sorry, I just kept your toy. I tend to fall on the side of keep the staff where it is and use AI to accelerate things where you can. If you try to reduce staff and maintain the same pacing, you're going to get out. You're going to get murdered by your competition who maintains their staff but accelerates via AI. That makes sense. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got one more toy. We can do as many questions as you want. Yes, sir.
So I love the fact that you more so with your agents, you go with a RAG approach to reading through documents and other things that you have. Earlier you talked about filling up that context window. What are some of your approaches personally when that context window gets too big to where it starts dropping off information?
Sure. That's it. Let's go with it. You ready? All right, we're at toys, but we can keep going. So context management is a big thing. Unfortunately, I'm running Opus 4.6 with a million token context window most days, so I don't actually hit it that often. However, context isolation and context clearing between thought spaces is very important. So one of the things that I will often do is I usually have 3 AIs up at any point in time. So I will have one that I'm using for whatever the working context that I'm actually doing is. I'm editing something, I'm writing some code, whatever, that is maintaining context on the project at hand. I almost always have a separate one that I'm using as a research agent. Okay, that's go find this, look up this thing for me, read this in my code. Like a lot of times I'll say, find where in the code X, Y, and Z is happening for me if I can't remember where it is in my 200,000 lines of code. right? And then I will shift to wherever my focus is and do that. So that context window filled up with search, I'll then just dump it and then start over for the next research thing, but I'm maintaining a much smaller context in my targeted edit. And then I will usually have something that's like, where I'm just like, kind of like, hey, generate this thing, but don't edit and show it to me, right? And so I can see that, and then I'll just clear it out. Yeah, go ahead.
So are you going more so with that swarm approach if you're using Claude?
Okay, so, all right, we're gonna get into a technical talk here. All right, so how much time? Jesse, what time do I need to finish?
You got 5 more minutes.
Okay, 5 more minutes? Okay. All right, so multi-agents, I'm actually working on a white paper for a client right now on this. So multi-agent structures, you have graph-based multi-agents, you have swarm-based multi-agents, you now have Claude with teams who are using context isolation, you have Codex that uses work trees to separate them, right? In my experience, swarms is the least effective out of all of those. They tend to get too chatty with each other, and then they just burn up tokens and don't make progress on things. The work trees and the context isolation Claude code team seems to be the ones that work better. And I think it comes down to focused and isolated context is more efficient in multi-agent patterns. That's the short answer. We can talk about it more in happy hour if you want. All right, one more. I'm a giant nerd. You can ask me anything you want.
We got no more toys, but
I got no more toys.
We got one more question for Wes before we thank him for his time.
All right.
That's it.
Oh, go ahead. UI? Yeah, I've got them all, man. I run a Llama. I run a Llama, Grok, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, but I do research stuff, and so I'm moving all of them. In my corporate work, we have local stuff running through Boundary as well. Yeah, I've got some more. I would say OSS or GPT OSS 120B is about equivalent to the Claude Sonnet 3.7 if you want to run locally. You have the GPU to do it. Definitely worth experimenting with. A lot of the like 3-4 billion models are really good for like lightweight stuff. These sorts of things. Definitely worth playing with. All right. Thank you. This has been fun. I thought I was going really fast, but I guess I was pretty much on time.
Perfect time.
If anybody has anything else they want to ask me, I'll be around for the other stuff. LinkedIn, I have cards if you need to as well. Thank you, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of it. And let's thank Jesse again.
While we have an audience in one room, I know there's so much noise with social media and networks and how content gets downloaded, but there's a lot. So we'll be spotlighting a lot of the local groups that are doing some really awesome events coming up, and just some of our great partners and just great relationships. So the one that we're going to introduce first to kick off our community spotlights is going to be from our relationship at the UTSA. So what I love about this UTSA relationship, there's kind of two of them. One of them is they had initially reached out to DevSA. Let me get the screen switched here, but they had initially reached out to DevSA because they had saw some of the activity we were doing when we first started, and they were like, "Hey, we love to focus on learning. We love to focus on building. We would love to bring something to campus." And of course, we're like, "Sure, happy to do so." Again, find your people, build your future. So segue to Xander, who I'm going to introduce here. I'm going to be bringing up Xander. He currently leads the student org for ACM UTSA. He's also helping run UTSA's Rowdy Hacks, which is the largest hackathon in the state of Texas. It happens right here in San Antonio, and this is one of the faces behind it here. So Xander, thank you so much for making some time for us today. I'm super excited to be working with you, side by side with you, to being a resource to plug you in. So I will quit talking. Xander, the stage is yours.
All right, so. All right, so
Appreciate the introduction. Makes it a little easier for me, so I don't have to introduce myself as much. But I guess for some clarification purposes, he's right. I act as a Rowdy Hacks director for this upcoming year, and I operate as one of the officers for General ACM UTSA. And then for our hackathon, I'll elaborate more on that later. But so I'm a junior over at, like I said, UTSA. I'm my third year, and I've been part of ACM UTSA for the better part of a year. For around a year now. And so let's get started. What is ACM UTSA, right? So ACM, if you guys have heard of, is like a national chapter, and we have one here at UTSA. The main idea for ACM is that we provide a space for like-minded computer scientists or people who are interested in technology to both grow in the field of technology as well as have a space where they can socialize and talk with one another and grow their personal and professional connections. So this past school year, actually this past even semester, we've had tons of events from workshops to panels, hackathons and such. So some of these included we had an internship panel, we had intro to tech workshops, which are workshops like introduction to competitive programming. We've had React ones, and then we've had resume reviews. And so all of this is with the goal of giving students a proper area to learn these technologies, gain professional insight, and within this tech space, and be able to help them navigate. Now, underneath ACM, it's a giant org, but we have a bunch of sub-organizations that help concentrate in certain areas. So, like for this top left one here, we have ICPC. That is one that concentrates in competitive programming. They love its competitions. They learn different data structures and algorithms that either someone teaches them or they learn from class and they get the chance to implement those. Like leak code is a very big thing within I guess anyone that's applied for a job, internship, anything like that. Leak code is very big. ICPC helps with bridging that gap. Rowdy Creators is a space where you either pitch a project or join on a project and you work on the better part of a semester on that project with other teams. It allows you to get real world experience working with tools that you may never experience in classrooms. ACM Projects is our team that helps with developing our personal tools. For our hackathon, we have something known as Hackin. This is a website, it's a full stack website that allows us to count registrations and other analytics that happen within our hackathons, including our membership portal as well. And then Coding in Color is a space for people of color within the tech space and providing them space so that they feel included. And then for ACMW, it's towards women in the tech space as well. So it provides our general ACM organization has all these sub-organizations to make everyone feel included and have proper representation and space within ACM. Now, our hackathons. We have a ton of hackathons throughout the year. In a given year, we could either have 3 or 4 of them. So to go over them pretty quickly, Rowdy Hacks is one of our bigger hackathons. It's the biggest hackathon in South Texas. And the main idea is that if anyone's experienced a hackathon, but I'll just go over it real briefly. You get a certain amount of time, in our case, 24 hours to build something and present it to judges. There's all different types of tracks and such. Rowdy CyberCon is our cybersecurity convention. This one's a little bit newer to ACM. The main idea is that they'll be having a CTF and be able to experience different cyber workshops. Code Quantum is our shorter 6-hour beginner hackathon that's pointed towards gender minorities. And then last week we have our Rowdy Datathon. Rowdy Datathon is our machine learning AI data-centered hackathon. The main idea is that you're given real-world data in order to solve real-world problems. All right. So with all this in mind, how do we do all this, right? How do we have all these events, these hackathons? And not only that, membership for this, for our students over at UTSA is free. There's no dues, no nothing for them. How does this happen, right? Well, it's with the support of companies, right? We work in order to get support with companies. Either they sponsor some of our hackathons and our events, or they directly support us through contributions and donations. And not only that, our amazing student-led team, all those teams are all ran by individual directors, presidents, stuff like that. So we have a huge group of like passionate people, such as myself, in order to get ACM running and going. It's not just me. It's not just the president. It's not just the vice president. It's a whole. It takes a whole village at the end of the day, right? So with that in mind, if any of this stuff sounded interesting to you, the hackathons, in regards to being able wanting to support us, please feel free to connect with us. We have a link tree that has our Instagram and such and a LinkedIn. So with that in mind, ACM UTSA is always looking for opportunities for future collaboration. So be sure to keep us in mind whenever your companies may be looking for sponsorship opportunities in regards to like the local area or even like school student initiatives. It would be awesome. We're always also in need of judges and mentors for our hackathons. Our CQ hackathon, Code Quantum, is actually happening in about a month or so. So if you like, you would be available to help out with judging some of the hackathon stuff, or you want to help out, give back to your community, those are always open. Rowdy Hacks occurs during the fall. We're always in need of connections, mentors, judges for those as well. So if any of that interests you, that would be great if you guys can connect. And then I'll always be around. I'm going to be here for the whole night. I love talking, obviously. So feel free to come up and just talk to me directly. I'm totally fine. So that's ACM UTSA.
Thank you, Xander. Any questions for Xander before we make the exit? Oh, we got one. UTSA.
Oh, yeah.
All right, UTSA alumni. I'm sorry. Sorry, G. Thank you, Xander. No, and that's just one thing that I love. The fact that DevSA can be used as a bridge. That's when UTSA had reached out. That was one of the first things they mentioned was that on campus, a lot of activity students are there. Once they leave campus, all that activity kind of stops. So they were trying to find one channel that kind of can allow them to get plugged into working professionals and that network. And that's really one thing that we're going to help solve with that. But with that said, thank you again, Xander. Appreciate you. Samad, it is almost time for Samad. I love this man here. So DevSA story. We turned 2 years in April. So DevSA turns 2 years old in April. And Samad is someone that was part of that frontline movement from day one. I recall, I don't think Michael's here. I see Michael from Manchester, but being able to integrate Samad with partnerships like Manchester and 1 Million Cups and his own business as a founder that he's running. So it's just super technical, always building, always learning. That's part of our DNA. So just to have somebody like that available to tag in for events like this and showcases is amazing. So Samad, if you want to start sharing your screen all the way from Houston, Texas, I didn't want to San Antonio, I love it. But on the screen loading up, I think I mentioned before, but anyone needs drinks, there's sparkling waters in the fridge. There's still pizza. If you guys know where the bathrooms are at, men's and women's, left and right outside the door. How's the lighting? Does anybody? Well, should I hit the switch around the main lights? You guys cool with the current lighting?
Maybe try this one.
Current.
This maybe is going.
Yeah. I'll save it. Cool. So the cool thing with Samad is, so we're going to now enter the block of our conference, going over agents. So if you go into schedule a structure, we're going to have our section for agents, section for security, game design and marketing. But Samad will be kicking off really one of the big foundational questions. We hear it all the time, but how do agents actually work? We're going to find out.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's what we're going to learn today. My name is Samad, I'm founder at Chamoy Labs. A little bit about me. We build products of our own. We have an AI native product suite where most of our products are completely built with AI. Then we help other companies build theirs. Before that, I was an engineer. I worked in the oil and gas domain a lot, but I also have a lot of experience in other domains like restaurant tech, consumer tech, government, you name it, and I love Ruby on Rails. So this talk will be in Ruby, but if you know Python, Ruby is pretty much the same. The key thing about this talk is not to understand language, it's to understand the concept of how to build your own agents. We are going to build a coding agent. So you've used Claude Code before, Cursor or Windsurf or XYZ editor. We're going to be doing a really rudimentary bare bones version of that. Okay, before we start, the talk is for everyone, so don't feel discouraged at the end to ask a question. I've tried to make the talk so that everybody can kind of take away something. Doesn't matter if you're really experienced or if you're starting out. The main thing is to understand the concepts. So what is an agent? It's really just a for loop. So if you've done programming 101, I promise you this meme is going to be really relevant in about 20 minutes here. It's really nothing more than that. The only difference is that there are these little buckets of how the agent operates from end to end. When you ask it a question, and what the response actually comes out at the end. Those buckets are defined as these 5 here. So if you're sitting in the far back, the first one is called perceive. So your AI must be able to perceive its environment that it's acting in. So in the case of us building a coding agent, it needs to be able to see your folder structure, see the files, what code is it. It needs to be able to take in the context of your documents within that code base, so on and so forth. So that's the perception piece. After it has its layout, right, it needs to now formulate a plan before it can execute. And so that planning step is one of the most important out of these 5 stages, because otherwise it's just monkey see, monkey do, and there is no coherent thought amongst the actions you want it to take. After it's fully planned out, its steps, it actually does the action piece, right? So if you say, hey, let's build a calculator class in your code base, well, now it's going to go right to that file. That's essentially the act part. And after it's done so, it needs to be able to persist amongst your chat, right? Notice how you keep talking to the chat, and it still has an idea of what's going on. There's 2 types of memory here that are into play. One is the chat itself, which is persistent for that session. And the second is actual memory. We literally call it memory, where it can reference previous conversations into your new conversation that you're having with it over a period of days. And then after it does this action, after it's memorized your preferences, one of the more verification steps, you can call it as a reflection. So did I actually do what you asked me to do? That's basically that step. And keep in mind that bottom sentence there, like every single agent that you see today, whether it's Claude Code, AMP Code, pick your own favorite, they all have this sort of 5 bucket pattern, but the way that they kind of operate within their stages, like mini stages within each of them, is obviously proprietary to each company. But if you understand these 5 ideas, you can pretty much kind of pick apart and build your own if you want to. So the first bucket, right? Perception and action. Your agents are essentially blind unless they have an idea of what's going on in the environment that they're operating, right? So in the context of a coding agent, you see on the right there, there's 2 functions. We have read file, we have list files. If you're writing a coding agent, you need to be able to read the files if you want to edit those, and you need to be able to list files within a certain directory. Each one of these functions are actually tools that you give to the AI, and those tools get executed upon automatically by your agents. How do they do that? You've written out tool descriptions for them. So when the agent is executing, it's able to refer upon that documentation, your function documentation, and call them accordingly. Those bottom 2 functions there, edit file and run shell command, are going to be part of the action piece from our 5 buckets. So after it's read the files, after it's listed the files, it's going to be able to edit the file via string substitution, and then also run shell commands as needed. Right? So those are those 2 buckets. The other bucket was memory. So there's 2 types of memory: short-term memory and there's long-term memory. Short-term memory is essentially your chat history, right? Your conversation. So I'm talking to it, I'm going back and forth with it. That's all filling up a context window for that current session. That is your short-term memory, right? This is also lost once the session ends. When you open up the conversation again, yes, you can still refer to it. There's a rolling window and whatnot. That's not important. What's important is that this is not lived across many days. In order to live across many days, you have to implement what's called long-term memory. Now, there's many ways to implement this, but in essence, they all come down to some implementation of a key value store. So the key being, what is this thing that I need to remember, and the value being the actual stuff that you need the AI to remember, right? Your memory can also live in a database if wanted to. It doesn't really matter. It's just a location for your agent to reference on for preferences that you have when working with the agent. So that is your persistent store, and in our code, we'll see I've created two functions, a remember function and a recall function. The recall takes the key to retrieve the context. The remember function takes the key and the value in order to store it into the JSON. So we're able to perceive our environment, we're able to act in our environment, we're able to remember our references via memory. Now we need to actually plan this out before we just have it run amok. So we have to plan. Planning is probably the easiest to understand because you're taking this large goal that you have, which you prompted it, and you're just decomposing it into these tiny, minute steps. You aren't actually doing that, but you're providing the agent an interface to do so. By doing so, the agent basically prevents going into some confusion state or these hallucinations that we talk about. They're just ordered steps that make sense and create a roadmap towards the end goal. That last bullet there is also pretty important. It's state tracking. So after a plan piece is created, you sometimes see the cursor where there's these little check marks happening on the right? It's able to keep track of what's actually being implemented towards your end goal. So if you create a plan, it's not just saying, hey, decompose this. Now you need to keep track of this entire state. And finally, after it's created the plan, it's executed it, it needs to check, did I actually do what I just said I was going to do, right? So you can see on the right there, the example that I've given is, let's say you tell the agent, say, hey, we need to update some sort of logging in, signing in, user sign-up logic. Well, the agent might take an action and say, hey, I updated the user authentication logic in this file. And it needs to reflect on itself. The AI will think, did I update the existing test for this? No, I need to go check the session handling log now, or whatever, right? That reflection step is really important because it's an evaluatory step to actually check if the failures that are happening when trying to achieve your goal are actually being taken care of or not. And if it is, we can have it pivot on itself and keep retrying within a loop without your interference. Okay. Let's look at some code real quick. I'll try to make the font as big as I can. All right, do it. So the code is in Ruby using a library called Ruby LLM, but most of the implementation is done completely from scratch. So you'll see here on the left, I actually have a source code folder with a bunch of tools. The tools are the ones we just mentioned. So we have the agent able to edit files, list files, make a plan, read files, recall, reflect, remember, update, step, view plan. Right, so we can kind of see how these look like, and those tool descriptions that we talked about are actually in here, right? You can see that there's descriptions, you can see there's a parameters that we've given to the function to take in. The agent will inject those automatically. You don't need to do this. So here, when the agent decides to make a plan, it will take in a goal, which is the overall goal that it needs to achieve. Then it will take the steps, which are an array of step descriptions in the order of execution, right? So all these tools have their own parameters. You don't ever need to inject them. You just need to make sure that your agent follows this to some degree. So how will they do that? Well, let's go to the agent class. So the agent class, you'll see here, you have a memory created for the agent, right? So you have a memory instance, you have a chat instance. With Ruby LLM, the beautiful thing is that you do not need to manage the conversation. So that is something that we take for granted, and that library pretty much does it for you. Otherwise, you'd have to implement your own windowing, right? And that's pretty complicated. You also see here that I provided it the tools that we just discussed. The top row here is the perception and the action tools. The first two being the perception piece. You can read files, you can list files. The last two are the actual pieces that will have the agent go edit the files and then run the commands. The second line is referring to the remember and recall in regards to the memory. And the third one is how the AI will make the plan, view the plan, and update its steps automatically. The last one is the reflection piece. This is a very naive implementation, but you do have to have at least all of these sort of, at least what we have here in order to really call it an agent. And the instructions here are pretty important. You say, hey, your coding agent, follow this workflow. Before starting any task, use recall to check what you already know, right? So it checks into memory and says, hey, what are my preferences before actually executing this stuff? And then for each task that's considered complex, make a plan before actually executing them. And after each of those actions, reflect on the results deterministically, right? So read the file back, check if it exists, so on and so forth. If the reflection shows success, go ahead and update the plan because the plans are trackable. So you can see that it's been completed or not. And then finally, after it's completed, go ahead and remember what you just did. So that's it's remembered as part of your preferences for ongoing conversations, right? And that's kind of the agent flow. Memory is nothing more than a JSON structure for the purposes of the demo. And planning is pretty much an array of all these steps. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so I'm saying, so we're about to chat with the agent. Let's do the calculator example that we said. We can create a calculator class. So let's say plan and create a calculator class in my source directory. Okay, cool. So it's starting to create a plan. It's starting to check what it already knows. I don't have a memory file created, so it's going to create one for me. Good, I can see this is a Ruby project with a source directory. Let me create a plan. You see on the left here, a calculator RB file has been created. A plan has been being created. A reflections file now that's actually verifying the code is being created. And now we're going to see the thought process here as it kind of fleshes out the files. You'd think as smart as Agent Start could build a calculator quicker, but apparently not. Okay, so one thing here, right? It's even checking for division by 0. So things like this is being reflected within the plan and then also implemented. Final verification step, meaning it's going back to the reflections. And now it's summarizing it just. So it says it created the class as I wanted. It created the 4 different arithmetic operations. It's giving examples of how to use it and has documented them. So let's go ahead and check how these files look like. So the calculator class, first of all, do we have the code that we wanted? Yes, it actually created the stuff for us. It created I mean, pretty sure everybody here can add 2 things, subtract things, whatnot. So let's look at how the plan was constructed. So this was all just generated right now, right? So it had a goal. It marked it true for completion after the task, and it created these steps that were decomposed. So the first step was, hey, I need to create a file, right? So just creating a file, as minute as that is, it needs to be decomposed from your overall end goal. Then it implemented the features. Then it added division by 0 error handling as a third micro step within this entire goal that we had. And then it finally verified it. So as this plan was created, all of these things were actually not marked complete. After when it reflected, it marked these over. And we can see in the reflections piece a timestamp of where every single one of those actions just occurred under the hood. So for the first step, that action that was taken, which was creating the calculator, it was expecting to see a file named calculator.rb in the source directory as we intended it to be. And then the actual result is the one that it verifies and checks after it's done that. So it kind of, it's really much, it's more or less like unit testing your code, except it's kind of, you can think of it as unit testing your agent, except the agent kind of verifies it itself. The other cool thing to note here is that each of these have retry counts. So the reflection piece should be able to iterate on itself on any step if it fails, right? And so for each of those steps that we just see in the plan, we basically have an expected and actual comparison, and that's how the reflections are done. And then finally, in the memory part, it's now remembered that it created a calculator class. It's created it in the source directory, and it has these methods implemented along with the error handling for division by 0. So we basically took a very simple input, saw how it planned it out, verified itself, and saved the results for future reference. Let's go back to comments. Right. So takeaways here, closing off this talk, agents are just loops. This whole thing just ran in a loop, and the terminal's still active until I click exit. The main thing you need to take away here, the perception part lets your agents explore. The planning part gives your agent structure towards completing your goal. The actions part is the actual execution piece where it goes and does things. Memory helps it remember over long periods of time. And reflection is the actual verification part. Did I actually do what I intended it to do? And that's it. I have a link to a blog post that I wrote in much more detail than what I explained today if you're interested, and also a complete source code if you want to download it, change the model, plan it out, so on and so forth. Just get through it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Questions as far as what's modeled over today, as far as the agents and the core breakdown of what it is? What up? We got a question.
Yeah.
The fact that you figured out avoiding that's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the response to that in technical?
It's a very long, actually, story behind the name, which I think I can tell you afterwards.
Is it on the site?
It's not on the site. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was funny hearing. I sort of forgot about the whole like Ruby connection. I don't know if Lewis is out here, but I remember like you talking about Ruby on Rails. The other guy here used to run the San Antonio Ruby group, and I was like, connections. But no, thank you so much for breaking that down. And we got some more about Chamoy. That's still a thing, right? Chamoy.
It is a thing. Yeah. You have to go to the website though.
Yeah, love it. All right, thank you so much, Samad.
Thanks.
So let me get this. So we're gonna get ready for Daniel here in a second. Let me just switch what screen is on for now. So we're gonna continue the agent conversation here. So who here uses GitHub? GitHub. We got some GitHub users. So we have Daniel's gonna be going over putting an agent in your app through GitHub using your new Copilot SDK. Adriana, look, it's you. On TV, sorry. With that said, before I pass him before I switch over, I do want to say to our sponsor, so thank you to Lean Techniques. Lean Techniques was the relationship that kind of came from Daniel, so thank you for that. But yeah, they definitely provided the food, the drink, and what I love about Lean Techniques, the spring about the company, is they're also very community-focused, community-driven, education-driven. So when it just comes down to partners that we're aligning with, sponsorships, in this case, love that this can happen organically. But with that said, I'm happy to introduce San Antonio's Microsoft MVP, also the organizer of the .NET user group in San Antonio, Mr. Daniel.
Cool. Let me. Oh, it's on the right one. Okay, cool. So, like Jesse said, I'm Daniel Ward. This is put an agent inside your app with the GitHub Copilot SDK. That's a long name. It will make a little bit more sense as we go through this. This QR code will also be on the very last slide. I just like to include this. This will take you to a blog post I have up where you can download or look at these slides. I just like to do this because sometimes in presentations, people like to snap pictures of the slides or frantically take notes so they don't miss anything. So I just want you to know you can still do that, but I don't want you to have FOMO, so you can go find the slides out here. Real quick about me, or as I like to call it, the best looking slide on the presentation. I'm a software developer and consultant. My official title is staff engineer at this company, Lean Techniques. Like Jesse said, we do digital transformations, and we have kind of a variety of offerings right now. In line with the one I'm doing today, we will help do AI engagements. We'll teach you how to use AI. We'll help you build with AI. We have a bunch of other stuff. We'll help you go to the cloud, help you get started with testing, kind of help you get started with making your software a competitive advantage instead of a cost center. I'm Microsoft MVP and .NET, and I'm the co-organizer of the San Antonio and Austin .NET user group. We are kind of acting as the same group for now. Obviously, the in-person events are in San Antonio and Austin respectively, but most of our meetups are once a month remotely. So if you're interested in the San Antonio side, that is meetup.com/sadnug for San Antonio.net user group. So yes, we are the sadnugs. And you can find me at all these places online. The easiest one is just my blog here. This is where the slides are, where that QR code takes you, danandagain.com. You can find all the social links on there. So especially LinkedIn, please hit me up afterwards if you want to add me on there. If you thought the presentation was cool, if you have feedback, if you thought it sucked really bad and you want to let me know, hit me up on LinkedIn. Would love to meet people that found me from this. Okay, outline. This is what we're going to go over here. First, we're going to go over real briefly what is an agent. We just saw an awesome presentation that goes deeper into that. I'm going to go a little bit higher level and not spend too much time on that, because really what this presentation is about is going to be the second thing, GitHub Copilot SDK. It's going to be what it is, how to use it, and why to use it, and we'll see a bit of a coding demo with it. So, what is an agent? So, if anyone ever watched Scooby-Doo when they were a kid and they take the mask off the villain at the end, this is kind of how I think of agents. So, take the mask off an agent. Oh, it's just an LLM. Everything's an LLM at some point. So, an agent is just an LLM with stuff wrapped around it. We've wrapped it with prompts or code logic or something. Really, it's just the LLM. Nowadays, you're never going to interact with just the LLM. ChatGPT, Claude Code, all these tools already have stuff wrapped around it for you already. So as an example, you send in your prompt, right? It goes to the LLM. This is a very simple example. And it says, hey, is the user asking about math? And if you are, I know I'm really bad at math, so I'm not going to do it as an LLM. I'm going to open up a Python sandbox and have it do math and then give you back the answer. So we've kind of told the LLM, hey, here's what to check for in the user prompt. And here's instructions on how to solve it instead of how you normally would. So we've given it some level of decision making it is in control of. And that's what an agent is. An agent is an LLM that can make decisions somehow. So in real life, this would be a massive, very complicated graph, right? It says, hey, sometimes look at a web browser, sometimes look at all these other things. And as a user, all you see is, hey, I put in my prompt, it goes into this big box, and I get my answer. I don't care how. So what we're going to look at today is kind of how can we make our own agents using this GitHub Copilot SDK. So I imagine everyone in here is aware, if you're not, GitHub Copilot is just an AI coding assistant tool like Claude Code, Cursor, Hero, all these other tools from Microsoft. They have an SDK, which is fairly new, and it's open source, and it's just to call Copilot from your code instead of from your CLI or from inside your IDE or whatever. So the official support is TypeScript, Python, Go, and C#. There are some people who have said, hey, I want that too. They've made their own third-party unofficial languages for the SDK, and that's Java, Rust, Clojure, and C++. I am a .NET main myself, so I will be doing the demo in C#. But same as last presentation, it's going to be more about the concepts, about the learning. So my hope is you can take this to whatever language you use. So all the SDK does is not anything fancy. It just talks to the Copilot CLI. That's it. So the Copilot CLI is another tool that already exists. And when you call the SDK in your code, it just communicates with CLI running in server mode through JSON RPC. So very simple diagram example of how it works here. Your app in code calls the SDK in code. The CLI gets spun up in server mode as another process, and it communicates with your SDK that way. So this does mean you need the Copilot CLI on the host machine of whatever is using the SDK. There is an option to optionally bundle the CLI with your app, so you don't have to install it on everywhere you ship. But one way or another, you do need the CLI on the machine that's using the SDK. So that being said, there's nothing really special about the SDK. It just calls the CLI. So it has all the features the CLI does, like custom agents or agent skills or MCP or tool calling, all this stuff. There are a few things that just kind of by design you can't use, like themes. There's not really any way or reason to use a theme with the SDK. That's a terminal thing. Or anything that needs user interaction, like you can't do / commands in SDK. And then there's a few things that I think, because based on RPC, does not support them, like exporting to file. All these things that it doesn't have by default. I don't think I've ever been like, man, I wish the SDK had that. It was all like 90% of the features, everything you need is there. So it does support bring your own key in case you already have something like an API key from Anthropic, OpenAPI, Azure AI Foundry. You can plug that in. And you can use the bring your own key as off, but by default, it will just use whatever GitHub account you're signed into the Copilot CLI with. So you can also use an environment variable for that, which would probably work better if you're deploying somewhere, or GitHub OAuth. I don't know if we'll be able to see this on such a small screen. We will see it in the coding demo anyway. I'm including this as a special call out just because I think this is pretty darn cool. Tool calling with the SDK is literally like, so this is C# code. It's literally just whatever code you normally write in, and you put a couple attributes on it, and then all of a sudden, your LLM can call this whatever code you wrote. So in this case, it can call my C# code. So you can just do really whatever you want. Okay, one thing I want to address before the encoding demo is, can't I just, whatever I'm going to do in the SDK, whatever I'm going to do in code, can't I just chain a bunch of prompts together to do that in whatever IDE of choice or whatever CLI or tool? So the answer is yes, you can. You can just chain prompts and do it. However, I'm going to say there's some difference in use case. There's a bunch of overlap between using the SDK or just normal prompting. Really, I think what's happening is all these companies are super trying to make sure you have every avenue available to use these AI tools that they're trying to get everybody to use. So this is just another way to use it. That being said, if you make AI things with the SDK, the app is going to own the flow, right? The code, whatever code you write is owning the flow. So you're kind of putting like guardrails or maybe some business logic around the AI stuff. With normal prompting, the user is owning the flow. It's probably manual every time, right? You set up as a cron job, but ultimately there's no like code deterministic guardrails around there. So this is, in my opinion, probably going to be better when the task is completely novel, completely exploratory. You're doing things, maybe it's a one-off, maybe for the first time, or maybe sometimes you just don't have the time to write the code. It is nice to just bang out some prompts in English, and all of a sudden you have sort of a working flow, right? So a few examples. If you are trying to triage some prod defects or something, right? You can do that with prompting. I'm going to say that's going to be more effective if you have some kind of actual code process. So like, hey, I'm going to just call the API in code to get my Dynatrace logs or something. I'm not going to rely on AI to do that correctly every time. And then I'm going to have AI look through all the stuff and piece it together. Pair programming, code review, your normal day-to-day work. That's probably not going to be through the SDK. I'm probably going to want to do that through ad hoc prompting, right? Product recommendations for our users, like on our website, right? That's definitely a job for something in code. We can have it, look at some backend or look at some databases. What have they bought in the past? And then surface those. Brainstorming product names, it's very similar to code review, just kind of on product side. This is an ad hoc thing. It'd probably be a waste of time to write this in code. So you could do any 4 of these with either ad hoc prompting or the SDK. There's a lot of overlap there, but I'm going to say, that they do have a little bit of their own use cases. Okay, so I'm going to go to the coding demo here. If you want to do this yourself, the only requirements, kind of like I said before, are that you have a Copilot license. So there's a free tier of that, and you need the CLI installed on whatever machine you're running this on. So I did this beforehand. You can install the CLI with NPM. It's a node package, so I just installed it globally. Then you have the CLI. And as long as you have premium requests left on your free tier, there is nothing stopping you. So let me open up my IDE here, and I'm kind of going to start from 0 just to show you how darn easy it is to get going here. Maybe zoom in a little. It's a little better. Okay. So to not have to rely on the internet too much, I already installed the package, which is GitHub Copilot SDK, but that's all you need. And you'll notice it is not in 1.0 yet. It's still in technical preview. Kind of all the features are there, but as we go through the code, you'll see some technical previewy things. Okay, so we all I've done so far is make a new app with nothing in it, a new console app, and then added this GitHub Copilot SDK package in there. So let's delete this hello world. We're going to make a Copilot client, which is kind of our entry point to using this guy. And I forgot my new, goodness. And then before we actually use him, we have to say start. And this will kind of kick off our CLI process. So then that hasn't actually done anything yet, right? We need to start what's called a session. So we'll say new Copilot session. And a session is basically a conversation. Every time you start a new conversation, whatever AI tool is calling that a session. So this does have a session config in it. And this is kind of where some interesting things are. So one thing, for instance, is we can set the model we want to use in here. So this is just a string. Typically in .NET, you'd probably see, in most libraries that I've come across, you probably see this as like an enum of all the valid options. So this is one of the technical preview things. We don't have an enum here, we just have magic strings. And we have to make sure we choose the right magic string. So I happen to know my premium request reset today at 6 p.m. and I still have like 30% left. So I'm just going to go Claude Opus here. We have a whole bunch of interesting things in here. We can set the MCP servers, give it the reasoning effort. This is also a magic string. Not all models have reasoning efforts, but you can go extra high, high, medium, or low. Kind of the idea is the higher the reasoning effort, the longer the response is going to take. But ideally, in theory, the better quality response you get. You can tell it what tools it has access to, what custom agent files, give it hooks, all kinds of cool stuff. The only thing I'm going to set in here for now is this setting called streaming. This is probably what you're used to seeing whenever you use a AI tool, where kind of the response it gives you comes in word by word and it streams in. That's a streaming response. So if you don't have this set to true, which is false by default, you'll just get, boom, the whole response back at once it's finished. And I'm going to do this because I was smart enough to have the correct code ahead of time. So I knew I was going to forget something. Okay. So we call this create session async. We pass in our session config. Now from the session, we can actually send a prompt, whatever we want. So to do that, we have two options. We have send async and we have send and wait async. You kind of wouldn't know it just by the names. And this is another technical preview thing. You'll notice there's no docs on these methods. There's no XML docs. So to learn about this, there is definitely some sifting through the Copilot SDK GitHub repo, asking Copilot about that repo. Say something, what is the meaning of life? And it's because it needs to be in the config, I believe. New message options. And there's an option here for prompts. This is where our prompt goes. There's not a whole bunch in here. This is where you put file and directory attachments. And you can set a mode in here, which we're not going to do. You can also override the system prompt that you get by default with Copilot, or you can add on to it. We're not going to do that either. And let's just write out whatever response it gets, then run it and see what it does. And I believe it is in data content. So there is some other stuff in the response that we don't care about right now, like ID, timestamp, whatever. I want to see what it came back with. So let's run that puppy. It should be pretty quick, I think, since we're on Opus 4.6. But we'll see what happens. I'm not sure I can zoom in the terminal view, but hopefully we can all see what it spits out here. Okay. So it's getting kind of existential on us. That's a bit outside my wheelhouse as a coding assistant. The classical answer is 42, which is kind of what I would expect it to say. But you can see, it worked here. So there's nothing fancy going on here, right? It's pretty easy. All we had to do was create a client, create a new session, and then send our thing. So I did want to show the tool calling, which I have pre-made in my snippet here. So let me show the tool function here first. So this is just, there's nothing special about this code. It is just normal C# code called getWeather. I've just put some attributes on it. And it's not even actually reaching out and doing anything. It's just returning this weather data record, which has a temperature and condition. And I'm just hard coding a value 100, and it's too dang hot. So how you support this for Copilot is they give you some attributes to use out of the box. So there's the display name and description for the function itself, and then each argument for the function can also take this description attribute. And these will translate to the JSON that is made for the tool call for the AI. So you don't have to write that JSON yourself. You don't have to worry about how it happens under the hood. All you have to do is write this. And then in the session config, you say, here's my tools, AI function factory.create, and then you pass in your method. So I've changed the prompt here to what's the weather in San Antonio. So again, it's kind of up to the discretion of the AI, whether it thinks it should call this tool or not. And if I've accurately enough named the description and display name, I don't think I've seen it not call this correctly. But technically, it's not deterministic. It could go off and do its own thing. And it did say the current weather in San Antonio is 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's too dang hot. So that is the response I feel like I usually get when I ask people. So there is one other thing going on here. I did this session.on, and this is a handler for all the kind of events that Copilot will give you. So there are a lot of events. If I click on the session events, here are all the ones. They're pretty granular. So assistant intent, assistant message, assistant reasoning delta. You can see the reasoning from this. So in this case, all I'm looking into is the assistant message delta event, which is we're doing streaming responses. So it comes in bit by bit. This event is going to fire off every time we get a new little bit message. So the only thing I did here is, hey, write to the console the delta, the difference in message we got, and then add an underscore just so we can see how they came in. And that's what we see here. So the current was the first delta, and then weather in San Antonio was the second delta, but you can sort of see how it streams in. And just to show you, there are a ton of things you can hook into. Now that was sort of a small little demo. I do real briefly before I end want to show you maybe what a more realistic example looks like. This is just kind of a side project for myself I've been working on for the past week or so. It's going to make me go way back. So kind of the way this works is I give it a markdown file of an idea for some app I had. And Copilot will look at that markdown file, and it takes 30 minutes or so. And from that, it makes a working app for me, a working MVP. So it's kind of split up into 3 phases here. I'm kind of showing you which parts were code, C# code, and which parts were Copilot to kind of show you, hey, here is a good use case for the SDK over just prompting. So I have code locate a specific directory with a specific file name for this MVP idea I had. Copilot generates a name for me, a slug. I validate that the slug is, I didn't have any underscores or whatever in it. And I copy over some PowerShell scripts I have to create projects. And Copilot, from the initial description, which is usually just a few sentences long, creates a markdown implementation plan, which is kind of like home base. And from that home base, it generates a bunch of different spec files. So I think we've talked a little bit about spec-driven development already today. So it'll generate like 6 or 7 different specifications for features to make. And then I think I told it, don't make more than 10. So if it makes more than 10, I just have it bail out. But I have the program loop over each spec it made. And then for each one, I create a new session. Copilot from that spec markdown says, okay, I'll implement the feature and make sure all the tests and build pass every time. And then the final phase just makes super sure, hey, do all the user flows actually work as described? So, and it generates a README. So to show you what it made here, and close this guy. This is first of all, this is the log for it. So just to show you, it took 34 minutes to run. So it's not the fastest thing ever. It's okay. Kind of the idea is I run this once a week on a bunch of ideas I have. And it kind of says, hey, here's your slug. Here's the implementation plan I wrote. For whatever reason, Copilot decided that was translated into 7 different specifications. I think all I gave it was a few sentences for this. It was like, hey, I want a trading card game website that I can browse. I should have an advanced search. It should have a basic search. It was really not much information. And from that, it made this guy here. This is a Blazor app out of the box. And then it made a bunch of changes to that. So again, this is all Copilot doing its own thing, from me giving it like a few sentences of a markdown. And I'll go to advanced search. I'm guessing it's just, from my description, it just decided it should rip off Magic the Gathering terminology for everything. And it does indeed look like it did exactly that. But I mean, this is pretty cool. Like, I don't need it to be perfect, right? I just wanted to give me an MVP. Once I see it in front of me, do I actually want to move forward with this idea? And I believe that's it. Yep, so we went over kind of very high level what agents are, different features of the Copilot SDK, very minimal example of how to use it, and then what we just saw, a little more advanced usage, maybe a real world example in the coding demo. Resources, usually I have more than this, but really the only resource right now that seems like is the GitHub repo. That being said, there are a lot of code samples and stuff in there. It's pretty darn good for documentation. And here's that QR code again if you want to look at the slides. I think I'm at time. I don't know if I have time for questions.
You're good. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I think we touched on at the end, it's like ideas, just kind of iterative ideas, trying to figure out what to do, what to move forward. I think that's the one thing that agents have really helped amplify, is just what we do with this stuff. But any questions for Daniel as far as GitHub, anything, the .NET, just anything from what we heard today?
Yeah.
Computer use?
Well, so what do you mean by computer use?
Like navigate
So the most I had to do in this was create its own files, delete files, look through the directories. So from this, yeah, I didn't try to do anything more than that. Yeah. Yeah, so I should have, yeah, so something cool is I have made a lot of .NET projects at this point. I know what NuGet packages I like when I'm making a test project, for instance. I don't want to rely on AI to do that for me, because sometimes it makes them from 2 major versions behind, sometimes. So I made a bunch of PowerShell scripts and then hooked those up as tools, and then told the AI, hey, if you want to make a new project, use this tool that calls a PowerShell script instead, and don't do it yourself.
Good question. Anything else for Daniel? Awesome.
Cool.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
If you're interested in .NET, check out the San Antonio .NET user group.
100%. 100%. And actually, it's a nice little segue, because Daniel will be speaking in the month of April for our next community spotlight. So we're gonna.
Yes, in April, I will also be talking about GitHub Copilot, just not with the SDK, but using it as a developer.
Yeah, so earlier we had Xander out here, so we're gonna get back into our community spotlight. So the next community spotlight, we're going to slide over here in a second. It's gonna be for the geeks and greats, or geeks and definitely when it comes to groups in the city, definitely the most active. I think when it comes to all the groups in the city, one of the groups that have really honed in on this core message that we're promoting of like city board collaboration for the month of April really shows that message 100% loud for everyone to see. So I'm not going to share too much deets. I know we have some folks in the house, some creative, Kidron. We're going to have a slide come in and kind of go over what is planned for the month of April. And that's the beauty with this event here. Really getting the spotlight, the exposure. Slide, I can see your face. Let me help you out.
I got it up.
But the one thing that I just talking to different people in the city, I think the one thing that people don't realize is how active the city of San Antonio is when it comes to the different tech groups that are out there. The event you're going to have the city of San Antonio. I will quit talking and let's slide talk about really what's coming up in the month of April. Whole month of April. So I just thought
are here to help and the people in the background. Love this event and love being here. Love seeing the community and people that are involved in it. So my name is Sly. I'm here to speak on behalf of Geeks and Greats. You may have also seen me at Alamo Tech Collective. But one of the main things that I'm focusing on right now is the AI April. With AI April, it's more so bringing together all those events that happen in the AI news and things in that realm all together in a month-long conference. The main reason AI April got started, just like with anything, a group of us got together back when Hugging Face started agents. We thought it was fun and cool, wanted to see what it could do, and wanted to share these little projects that we had put together with the rest of the community. So out of nowhere, AI April was that brainchild that was born out of it. And with that, one of our main focuses is not only trying to find things that work with AI April or with AI as a whole, but finding things that work for the community of San Antonio, helping other individuals grow. So with AI April, it's primarily going to focus on innovation, ethics, and impact. And with that, it's more so helping people be aware of, hey, this is where AI is right now. It's not something you need to be scared of. It's not iRobot. It's something that's going to help you grow as an individual. Because at the end of the day, it's not AI that's taking your job. It's that individual that's actually learning how AI works. And that's the individual that's going to take your job. As it was stated before, earlier, companies are starting to pick up on the fact that they may have fallen off with the fact that they can replace bodies with AI, and they're starting to see that, oh, maybe we should just give this as a tool to our members to help them perform their jobs better. So pretty much when it comes to the AI April, if you scan the QR code, it'll take you to the website. On the website, if I can get it back up. There you go. You'll see a event list lineup. Scroll down. Some of the main things that it'll start off with is drinks. So you're familiar with that. It'll be over at Pinkerton's. We'll be having an individual speak on AI. That'll lead right into the event. We'll start with our kickoff after that. That is being sponsored by Alamo Tech Collective. And in that event, it'll be more so focused on all the little different pieces and segments that you'll see that'll be done throughout the month of April. So it's more so event, a party where you just get together, social hour, but it's also something that we want you to interact with some of the projects that people already have that they want you to show, that they want to show off for everyone else to see. So I would love to see everybody there for the kickoff. On there also in the month of April, not only are we working on AI April and just talking about technology, but also getting out in the community, volunteering and helping out as well. So some of the volunteer opportunities that we have is working with Girls Inc. and volunteering for the Youth Code Jam. And then there's other volunteer opportunities that are happening as well. So as you do that event,
you'll find that. And then once again, just so that we can make this more well-rounded, you'll see things more so concerning with the gaming community and even the filming industry. So don't think of it as just something that's focused solely on devs, but just more so how AI has impacted multiple industries. But other than that, if you have any other questions about AI April or want to help out, I'll be off to the side if you want to talk to me over there. Other than that, does anybody have any questions? Hey, thank you.
Hi, thank you, Senor. I love that, man. Thank you, Sly. Let me get this off the screen. So now, so that wraps up our portion about agents. Let's see, Serena's out. We're going to be introducing Serena here in a second. So again, the beauty with this conference, let me just get off the screen real quick. Share screen. Again, so we're now going to transition to really introducing another perspective, another lens. And again, just tying into the mission of today's event, find your people, build your future. I'm going to bring up Serena. Actually, what I love about Serena is she's at work. I'm a developer for a media company, and boss is my partner over there. Kept on dropping another term like drip campaign. We didn't work. We didn't figure out what the drip campaign to market out. What the heck is a drip campaign? I have no idea. And then I was on a panel with Serena, the tech block I put together, and she was dropping out that D word, and I was like, oh. Drip campaign, of course. So I immediately gravitated to her just to kind of just get some insight, pick her brain. But what I'm excited about with this event is being able to showcase someone like Serena in her space. She's in the go-to-market strategy space. She lives in that world. And the beauty with that world is there's AI tooling and workloads that are in that space. And that's what Serena's going to be going over today, is how AI is being used with her workflow in that go-to-market strategy. So I will quit talking. Serena Hernandez, if you want to make your way this way, we will introduce you to the Devastate stage. While she gets her screen to share, another cool fact about Serena, she's also the organizer for San Antonio Young Professionals that do events out here in San Antonio. So definitely for our youth in the city, our UTSA connections, our partners at St. Mary's University and Texas A&M San Antonio, and just anyone here. Another network, another group that's active in the city to help you find your people and to build your future. Hey, Serena.
Thank you. All right. Give me a couple seconds, hopefully, so it can connect. Get my stuff up there.
Sherry.
Wi-Fi is kind of slow.
Oh, no, you're good. As long as you were able to connect to the Wi-Fi. We can use my screen to use it. Let's do that. So I'll share my tabs. And then I'll just have you. I'm sharing the tab. Or maybe send it to me. Yeah, that's cool. Or send it on Zach, how's the stream? By the way, we got some time. Thank you, Zachariah, in the back. Zachariah has been covering the live stream, so I didn't share it before, but we're also streaming live on our Devastate channel. So thank you for that. Gene, I didn't give you a heads up, but someone's going to tap your shoulder in a second. We have Edward who's been filming some content for us. So, I already did? Okay, sweet. I got to give Gene a heads up. I was too late. Okay.
Jesse's always good at hyping me up. Appreciate it. Okay, let me put this on the screen. There it goes. Okay. So my talk today, well, before I go into that, my name is Sabrina Hernandez. I've been in marketing for 7 years now, but I've been in go-to-market and product marketing for about 5 years. So with go-to-market, that goes into product marketing. A lot of our job is we're bringing to market with our solutions and products that the company is kind of putting forth. So we're kind of that launch quarterback for a lot of our engineering and product teams. We are the ones that develop out the messaging and positioning, and we are the people that just try to make sure that whatever the product is, we're resonating well with it. With a lot of that, though, I do want to say that go-to-market is very baseline, and it's super important to have. And the statistic is over 70% of startups, they do fail because they scale way too soon, or they fail to find and adapt to their market, right? So that's kind of where go-to-market comes in. A lot of the times, and a lot of the clients that I work with, I notice that they focus on building the product, which is cool, and that's something that is super neat and obviously something needed for the business, right? However, they're not building a path to market for that product or solution that they are trying to bring to market. So with that, that's where go-to-market comes in and research. So with that, a lot of the times we're building before validating. We're not defining our ideal customer profiles very well, or maybe we do, but they're way too broad. Also, we're guessing at pricing. We're not really determining what pricing is for the market that you're trying to penetrate. And a lot of the times, too, we're kind of copying competitors without really understanding their craft. I like to say that we try not to reinvent the wheel, though we do want to do better with the wheel, right? So on that note, too, we're writing plans based on optimism, and we're not building based on the intelligence portion behind that. So what does strong go-to-market research, what does that actually reveal for us, right? Who are we urgently trying to solve a problem for with that product or solution that we're trying to build? What are they paying for today? Maybe there is a competitor out there that they are trying to, that they already are buying into, but what are they paying for currently? What can be done better? Why would they even switch over to you? And what kind of language resonates with them to want to switch over and to want to buy into your product and solution? So this is where the fun stuff comes in and why we're all here. We're trying to learn how to use AI to define out that ideal customer profile and to also help with kind of building out your go-to-market, right? So currently right now, my professional tooling, and this is way more mid-market to enterprise, I currently use Gong, and Gong is a conversation intelligence tool that I use to determine if our sales teams, if our support teams, if they are resonating well with the product to our customer. This helps me understand kind of what they're telling the customer, how the customer sentiment is towards that messaging and that positioning, and if need be, where should I go back and define it for our teams. So it's very like cross-functional, it's very multi-use with this tool. What I use with all those transcripts and all those recordings that Gong captures for me, I do use Claude, or you can use ChatGPT to use a deep research function on it to really analyze that call. What do I need to know about this customer sentiment? What are they reacting to? Are they reacting more to this keyword that or this buzzword that my salesperson is talking about? Or are they reacting better with other words? Like, what is the tone that they're reacting well to? So with that being said, these are some founder-friendly alternatives that you can actually implement into your own workflows right now. That does the exact same thing as these professional tooling. So I recommend integrating in Otter AI with either Zoom. I don't know if it integrates in with Google Meets if you use Google Meets, but Otter AI is a good alternative to Gong, where it's still transcribing your interviews. You can download those interviews and those transcripts, and then you can upload them into your AI of choice, either Claude or ChatGPT, to really analyze those. Another thing too is using Google Forms to get structured feedback. It's not really AI. However, as long as you're getting in the structured feedback from either your piloters or even your ideal customer profiles, or even like current customers right now, you can use all this feedback, tie it in back to the deep research functions on these AI toolings, and it's going to give you some actionable insights you can take away from. And also too, and I like to just say this, you can even go into Reddit or LinkedIn groups, and you can actually surface in like real language. So they may not be your customers right now, but they might be your ideal customer profiles, your ICPs, right? What are they saying that resonates well with them, into finding out kind of how your product or solution or even your business will resonate with them as well. So competitive intelligence for founders. Again, with an enterprise solution right now, I'm currently using Crayon, CI, Crayon Competitive Intelligence. If you're familiar with Clue, that's their direct competitor. I like Crayon because Crayon is used for just deep research functions on competitors of ours. I can tie into a competitor's website. I can even go down into finding like these research articles. Crayon finds this all for me. And what I use with that information and that AI tooling that it's giving me is I'm creating battle cards for our salespeople. I'm even creating battle cards for our product and engineering teams, because this is what's going to help us really define out where we are in the market. Again, that goes back to what I was saying in the last slide. We're finding out the messaging behind it. We're finding out what type of products or solutions that our competitors have, things that we don't know. It's even telling me what they're changing on their websites in terms of their messaging. So it's pretty cool. Some startup friendly stuff that you can actually use besides Crayon, which is the exact same stuff, is going to be your Google Alerts, your Google Trends. This is all free. It's all cloud-based. You go in, you type in your competitor, you even type in some keywords that you may not know or may know right now. Put that in, it's going to give you some trends. Before I started using a lot of these enterprise level softwares, I was a big fan of SEMrush, their free tier, because it does kind of the exact same thing as Crayon and Gong. However, you're just putting in the URLs of your competitors or who you think your competitors are. And it's like really like throwing back out how your customers are finding them. So it's pretty cool. Definitely recommend that. These are more manual things, but again, I just like to throw these in here because I feel like even with AI is still kind of building itself up right now, and we need some human intervention with it. So doing your manual research yourself, so going into Reddit, your niche communities that there might be for your product or solution, going in there, really seeing what's being talked about, what's a need, what's not a need, and then putting all that information that you got and then creating your own competitive matrix in either Google Sheets, if you're a big fan of Microsoft still, using Excel, and you could even use Notion. So some cool stuff. So what does this change in your current business plan as a founder? Right. So AI-powered research that we just talked about is really going to help you narrow down your ideal customer profile. Maybe the ideal customer profile that you have in your head right now may not be exactly what is fit for either your market or the solution that you're trying to bring to market. So this really helps narrow it down and maybe give some new insight and perspective to that. It's also going to help you adjust your pricing logic. Maybe you need to go lower, maybe you need to go higher, maybe you do need to meet in the middle, and maybe your positioning is going to help you kind of beat out competitors that way, right? It's also going to help you clarify your differentiation in the market, and it's going to help reduce your pivoting risk. In a startup, you're always going to pivot no matter what. No matter what stage you are in your startup, you're going to pivot. You're going to have to change how you do things. But with a lot of this AI-powered research, what it's going to help do is it's going to really help set at least a foundation. So you're not having to do that multiple times throughout the course or age of your startup life. Because again, like what's our biggest goal of a startup, right? We want to get acquired. We want to get bought out, right? And that being said, too, this is also going to really help strengthen investor confidence. They want to see data. They want to see if you've done the work behind it. This is really going to help strengthen out your business plan, or as I like to say, your go-to-market. So the competitive intelligence mindset with all of this is winning founders. You guys are going to study your markets continuously. You guys are going to treat your positioning as very dynamic, pivot when necessary. This is what all this research is going to help out with. And then you're going to adjust faster than your competitors. You don't want to be behind your competitors. You want to be one step ahead of your competitors, right? And you guys can either take a picture of this, but I do have a digital download for you guys that's free in a couple slides. But I put together a 7-day sprint to kind of get started. One of the things I will say on number 1, I say interview 5 to 10 prospects. If you don't already have prospects with your startup, just interview your ideal customer profile. Even if they're friends, even if they're families, even if they haven't bought into your product yet, it's just good to get real world feedback right now. And even again, going into your niche communities as well, asking your communities what they think about either your business or the solution that you're trying to bring to market. And that is Q&A. And here is the digital download if you guys want to download it. Again, it's free. So becoming a founder, it's basically giving you step-by-steps to your go-to-market strategy and how to create one for yourself. And I am done.
13
minutes. That was 2 minutes. Just go down.
No, you're good. You're good. No, and I think what Serena speaks to, this really ties into our ecosystem and our partners at DevSA, just having great relationships with people at Geekdom and the people at TechBlock. It's just been great to gain that insight from those communities and be able to find rock stars like Serena who can kind of speak to that. Because as builders, I think the big core question is like, well, what problem are we solving? How can we get that? And then how can we amplify, accelerate, and grow? But with that said, thank you, Serena. Any questions for Serena? Anything at all about the AI tooling and the go-to-market strategy? Oh, we got a question.
Are there specific industries you have a focus on?
Well, I don't have a preference. I've done everything from hospitality all the way to cybersecurity. However, I will say I'm pretty ingrained right now in the payments industry and fintech right now. So that's a whole beast within itself. I think with that industry right now, I'm dealing with a total of maybe 10 different ICPs because we have about 6 different verticals that we're working under right now. So I would say that is something I'm currently doing right now. I don't really have a complete industry to look towards.
Awesome. Oh, we got a question.
So what was the definition of drip campaign?
Oh, yeah. That's I still don't know. Serena, help me.
Okay. That depends on what you need in your go-to-market, what is needed for your business. And then, for example, maybe a drip campaign can be anything from an email. Once that drip starts, maybe from that email, you get a lead from the email. And then from that, triggers out a sales call, or vice versa. So it really depends on the channels that we're trying to hit on that.
It's a lot of trigger action.
Yes, trigger action.
Thank you, Wes. Got to be like, yeah, I still know. Any other questions for Serena? Awesome. Well, thank you again, Serena, for making time for us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Cool. And then what I will do, so this was the lens of the marketing, sales, go-to-market space. We're now going to transition into AI in the game design space. So what are we doing there? So I'm actually pretty excited for this guy here. Not even Warner, who I met this year, but cool story about Warner is senior software engineer at the Walt Disney Company. Oh, that's pretty amazing. But his passion has been music. His passion has been game design. He's been building with Godot. And as far as like just music integration, music sampling, I've seen some like keyboard MIDI controllers that have been integrated. So me being a big music guy, I was like, I love this man. But anywho, I will let Warner go into the weeds there. I was super excited when he was available and said yes, he would join us on stage here at More Human Than Human. So with that said, Warner, thank you for making time for us here. Oh, I see it. I see it. But Warner will be here going over his Godot audio tech stack. And yeah, again, Warner for being here. Thank you guys. I was telling you, we have, of course, we have our greater game society community here that kind of powers our game design community. So I was telling Ansley, like, we got to activate this man as better than Rockstar. Cool, but yeah, just take over the screen whenever you're ready. Zach, how are we doing on YouTube? Good, okay.
All right. All right. Hello.
There you go. Hey.
My name's Werner. I'm a software engineer. I'm from Guatemala, but I grew up here in San Antonio pretty much. I've been working on game development for about 25 years since I started in high school. And I've been working with Godot lately, and I've created a few open source projects. There's Godot C-Sound, distro, and then LB2 and BSD3 hosts. So I'm going to be going over why I built this and how AI helped me in the process. Okay, so a little bit background information for music production. Right now, it's for most indie game developers, it's a process where a musician will make the music using the digital audio workstation, and it works by feeding the MIDI into the workstation, and then you have plugins that produce the audio, right? And you can have real instruments also and have WAV files, but for the most part, I'm going to be covering the MIDI aspect. So then you have basically multiple tracks. You can increase the volume, decrease the volume. It's very dynamic. And before it gets added to the game, it gets turned into a static WAV file or MP3 file, and that's what the game gets. So for me, the game that I'm working on, it's the focus is very heavy on the music aspect. My background's also being a musician. So I wanted to have that capability of the digital audio workstation within the game engine. And so I'm going to be going over how I accomplished that. There is commercial tools that allow to do that, like Fmod, WYs, and maybe some other ones. But for my game development, I like to make the games and then make them open source. So I wanted to use only open source tools. So I built my own audio stack. So here's an image. Basically, you have a digital audio workstation. That's the software. And then you have smaller programs, and then you connect them. And you can basically feed the audio from one to another. And then the MIDI drives the sounds being played. And then you can also control parameters, which are kind of like different attributes that are exposed by the plugins that allow you to change like modulations, get different dynamic sounds from the plugins. And currently for Godot, you have this very complex dynamic workflow that musician gets, then you create the WAV files, and then in the game engine, you just play the WAV files. So it's not as dynamic as what I wanted it. So what I've been working on is to basically turn Godot into the host, the audio plugin, and also the game engine. So it allows the game to behave as any of these different aspects. So anything that you could do in a digital audio workstation through these open source projects should be possible to do within Godot. And my focus has been more on the integration. The graphical aspect will come later, and that's actually going to be more part of the games that I'm going to be working. Okay, so the first project that I worked on that I started maybe 2 years ago is Godot C-Sound. C-Sound is a programming language made specifically for audio synthesis and sound production. It allows, through the use of code, to write dynamic code that is actually being interpreted at runtime that allows a programmer to specify what the audio should sound like. And for C-Sound, Godot C-Sound, what I did is I took C-Sound and I actually became a contributor of C-Sound, and I helped them set up their CI/CD pipeline. And I got it to where it compiles to all the different platforms. So it works on Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iPhone, and WebAssembly also. Of course, I want to thank the people that worked on it. For my inspiration came from Cabbage, which is a tool that allows to use C-Sound to make synths, and also C-Sound Unity that allows to use C-Sound within Unity. And those were the projects. I started off with those, but since I'm a big supporter of open source, I wanted to have the same workflow within Godot. Okay, so the core features of this project is real-time audio synthesis. You can also change the parameters, and you can trigger notes turning on and off. And then you can also specify C-Sound code within your program so that you can change the instruments at runtime. And the extension for the code is CSD, and I'll show an example. It's its own programming language. So you can design basically any sort of sound processing that you want. The core features, so Godot C-Sound is modular. It's its own GD extension. You can include it into your project. Its integration is seamless from the user's perspective, and it supports all platforms that Godot supports out of the box. For consoles, I don't have any like SDKs yet, so the support's not there yet. But at some point, I'll try to port those over. And of course, the most important thing for me is that it's open source and extendable. Here's an example of C-Sound code. It has this format where it looks like HTML. It has the C-Sound options, which are the options that you would pass to the program initially. You have your instruments, and then you have your score, which tells it what notes to play when you're not working in an interactive mode. So that you can basically specify your instruments and then have a whole orchestra in your score. For the most part, I just use the instruments part, and then I generate the music dynamically through MIDI events. So here, this is an instrument. Its name is just one. The way C-Sound is set up, there's certain parameters that are fixed. So you have the start time, the MIDI velocity, and MIDI notes. And then beyond a certain parameter, you can just specify whatever parameters you want. So in this example, it's basically just getting the amplitude frequency, and then it's generating a sawtooth wave using those values. And then it's outputting that audio to the system. Right? So a very small amount of C-Sound code in order to reproduce this in C, C++ would be a lot of effort and time, right? So this allows somebody to play around with synthesizers without having a deep knowledge of C and C++ programming. And using it in GDScript, the way that it's set up, after C-Sound is ready, there's an event that lets you know that it's ready, and then you can get its instance. And then once you have an instance, you can send parameter change control. So if you want to change volume or LFO frequency, whatever attributes, and you can also turn the notes on and off. And you can also send your own code. So if you create specific code within C-Sound and you want to call that, you can do that from here also. Okay, so I did that. I finished it about a year ago. And once I was able to write synthesizers, I wanted to be able to use those same synthesizers in a digital audio workstation. So I started working on Godot distro. So there's an open source framework, which is distro, that allows somebody to write code in C++, and it gets exported into different formats. The ones that are supported is the popular ones, LV2, VST3, and VST2, and some other not so popular ones. So my intent for this project was to take the distro code and write a general library that would allow for somebody to take a Godot project export those as audio plugins without having to write any code. So you basically can just get the functionality from the library without having the expertise of how it is that they're built. Yeah, so distro is written in C++. And of course, I want to thank the developers of the distro framework. And here's an example of once the integration was done in my project. This is the definition for a plugin. And this is a shorter form, right? Because it's a bit longer. So you specify the parameters that are required, information like the ID for the plugin, and then you also specify the input and output ports. And the state, the way that the audio plugins are built, there's the audio processing and the UI, and there's a mechanism to be able to have them communicate with each other, and that's the state on the distro framework. So you also specify your state, your initial state, and with that definition, then this plugin is able to generate the audio plugins for you. And there's also, I wrote 2 servers. There's the plugin logic, which is the DSP that's generating the audio, and then there's also the UI. So the way that I've set this up is you have callbacks that you're able to tie into the events. Whenever something's happening in the audio processing, you get a signal back, and then you can do certain things within your code. So for example, if somebody triggers a note playing in the UI, you will get a notification on the server side, on the plugin aspect. And then there's communication the other way also. And then for the UI, it's the same. You connect to the callbacks, and then whenever a note is being played or not, you'll get a notification. And I also exposed the most important methods. So for example, being able to play a note or turn a note off and then change the parameter. Okay. And then once I had plugins working, I thought it would be really cool to be able to use them inside Godot. So I worked on creating 2 servers, one for LB2 and one for VST3. And what these allowed the user to do is to include a library in Godot, and then any VST or LB2 plugins you have installed on your computer become accessible in-game. So you can use any of the plugins that you normally use for audio production inside the game engine. Let's see. Yeah. So the main thing for this, it also allows to be able to leverage existing plugins. There's a lot of open source plugins that exist. And because of the way that they're licensed, right, they're GPL licensed, it's not possible to bundle them with the game. But by having them be separate as a plugin, it's possible to download them because it's not part of the project itself. So it allows being able to leverage a lot of the open source work that people have been doing for audio production. Okay, and for AI, the project I initially worked on, which was Godot C Sound, it took me about 1.5 years to finish it. When I started Godot distro, I started using AI, and I had built some leverage on my build tools and pipelines, and I was able to complete Godot distro in about 6 months. And the LB2 host and VST3 host, through the same process that I learned in the previous projects, I was able to complete one in a month, and then the other one I was able to complete in a week. So through the use of AI, I was able to leverage a lot of work, but it was more about thinking about things different. So it wasn't so much about me asking the AI to do it for me, but it was more me having conversations with the AI to be able to think about what it was that I was doing and how to leverage or gain leverage in workflow and production to increase my velocity without losing control of the process, right? So the architect first paradigm. So for this is basically for one of the projects, I spent about 6 months talking to the AI system. and I haven't actually written any code for it. So it was more about planning and coming up with a strategy to be able to understand what it was that I wanted to do before I actually started the development. And through that process, I was able to learn a process where, how can I describe it? So instead of actually writing code, I could have the AI maintain a context of what it is that I was working on. And then through conversation, I could change the implementation without actually implementing any code. So I could say, I'm thinking about using these type of things. What if I use this CLI? I could have it to where the AI would build it in its context, and then I could query and ask questions about it. So I have maybe 3 or 4 projects that I'm actively working on where I haven't done any development on them yet. Also, strategy and planning. In order for me to be able to go fully into game development, in the past I was a bit hesitant because it seemed like it was very risky to leave my full-time job in order to go into game development. But through the use of AI, I was able to create strategies and planning to be able to come up with a plan, to be able to have actionable items to make it less risky endeavor. So I was actually able to pivot my career and really focus on what it is that I'm passionate about without actually taking any risk. Because any risk that I thought I had before, I was able to use AI and work through them and see maybe how my thinking was flawed or opportunities I hadn't thought about. So it was like a collaborative process in order to be able to map my ideas and my strategies, right? And the last one is for software development. I enjoy the process. I do most of the development myself. There's a few parts where if I know something, like something's very tricky to do, and it's actually not something that I'm interested in, I can just have an agent, an interface, ask it to implement the methods for me. And then I can actually take that, and then I don't put that into the code directly. I'll go through it and type it myself so I can understand what it is that it did. So it's like a bit of a trade-off for development. Okay, the demo. Let's see. Okay, so this is a synthesizer I wrote using my own tools. I used the C sound for the audio processing. The user interface is being done with Godot, and it should be able to produce audio. I can't hear it, but. Let's see. No? Crank it up. Let me see. Maybe I need to let me share. What is it?
Can you stop sharing?
Yeah.
And then we will reshare just in case. Go there again.
And then okay. Maybe this one.
Window, and that should probably.
And then check.
Share.
Oh, let me see. Is that the correct one? I think it's this one.
Share. Play it again.
Oh.
Okay, there's audio.
in your system.
Okay. Right. And then I can play it on the keyboard also. Cool. Great. And then the other part, let me share this. Okay. And then the other part I can show is Carla. So this is a tool I use to be able to use plugins. So then within here, I have my audio plugin. And then I can show the UI, and it shows the same code. And it won't play the sound because I'm clearing the whole screen, but it's the same code. Right? And all I had to do, well, I mean, all a user would have to do is build your synthesizer with C Sound, specify some code in GD script, and then be able to export them, and now you can build your own audio plugins. Right? That's the idea. And I think that's it. Any questions?
No, thank you, Werner.
Yeah.
I kind of heard some of the sense there, but no, that was a lot to take in here. Any questions about Godot, about audio, MIDIs? Yeah, we got a question.
Yeah.
With the stuff that you built, have you like, do you have any songs or tunes or anything like that that you built with this?
Not really. Like I have my own music. I can maybe play something. Let's see.
Let's hear a song.
Actually, I wrote something before this. I don't know if it'll play though.
So now we're going to go into the music portion of More Human Than Human. Super cool.
All right, and let me. Yeah, I don't know how this will be shared at all, but let's see. And then I guess I'll turn the volume up. See if it works. No. One second. Outdoors master. All right.
Love it.
Yeah, it's barely audible. Yeah. So it's basically 3 different plugins, and they're all playing a different preset. So it works. There's still a few things I need to test, like being able to load and save presets, verify it works on Mac and Windows, but it's almost there.
Thank you for sharing, Werner.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, we got a question.
Yeah.
Was it like growing up as a musician, but being left-handed, and also did you attempt to gamify games and music at some point?
Yeah, so the reason why I'm working on these projects is to gamify music. So the project that I'm actually working on is like a multiplayer game where people all join together and collaborate to make music. And like the way that I want to do it is basically it'll be a digital audio workstation, but from the user perspective, it's a game. I don't know if I'll make that one open source. At some point, I do want to make it open source, but initially, probably not. Yeah.
Turn the beta. To open it or not open it. It's a love-hate, it's a very polarizing thing.
Yeah.
But, great questions. But yeah, so with that, thank you, Werner, so much for coming out here. Appreciate you. Thank you, Werner. So we're going to go to our next community spotlight. Oh, chicken. Hello. It's good to introduce you. Yeah. So I'm going to introduce Gene here in a second. Gene is one of the organizers for ACMSA. So the cool thing with ACMSA is I always tell Zach and Gene, like what I love about this group is it's a recognizable name for students at any college, nationally, locally, to kind of connect with an audience outside of campus. But the reason why we're bringing in Gene is because there is, as far as events coming up in the city of San Antonio, they are hosting a month-long event in July called Velocicode. What gets me excited is it's Velocicode 2. So the beauty is with the seeds that DevSA has planted, the city of San Antonio is now finding organizations that are able to kind of just keep this consistency going. We can look at the calendar for the year and we can see AI April, boom, and then we can look at July, Velocicode, boom. And then this event here is going to be a co-collaboration with the Greater Gaming Society, who also does an event in October called Gaming Summit, and we're expecting a Gaming Summit 2 this year as well. So it's just amazing that we can look at the calendar, see these consistent themes, and then have all the other groups that are in the city just kind of fill in between. Just really spotlight the activity in the city of San Antonio and the whole mission of finding your people and building your future. You got the link, Gene?
Yeah, I forgot to let it actually share my screen, so I'm getting it together. Sorry, my bad.
I'll quit talking and we'll give Gene a second to get squared away. But thank you again for patience. I know we're just trying to run through this here. It'll be a proper networking time come 5 o'clock, and we're going to really go for a hard 5 o'clock stock release. That's what we're aiming for. I guess to buy Gene some time, one of our sponsors is Vercel and V0. I don't know if anyone's used V0 before. They have an application called V0.app. They gave us $700 to build credit. So if you've used it, if you've never used it, well, one, if you've never used it, we got a referral link. Use the referral link, get an extra $5 credit. If you use the build credit code V0-more-human, you get $10 in build credits. So that's how we're giving away the $700 in build credits. So that's for my talk at the end. But we're getting a little over on time, so just in case we got to do something, just so the information is there. I'll quit talking. Gene!
All right, I'll try to make this quick.
No, you're good.
So, we just got out of a talk about video games, so this is a perfect segue. Thank you. Velocicode. By the way, my name is Gene. I work with Zach, which you just got introduced to. I work with ACM, and we do a lot of technical discussions here in San Antonio and like connect the community along with DevSA, and we partner with them a lot. For Velocicode, we're partnering with the Greater Gaming Society, and this is going to be our second year doing a game jam within the city of San Antonio. So can I get a raise of hands? How many people have participated in a game jam participated? Who knows what a game jam is? Okay. So for those who don't know what a game jam is, it's kind of like a hackathon. Raise of hands, hackathon, anybody? All right, cool. Except you build a video game in an established period of time. How we are planning this to go this year is we will be kicking things off on July 1st. A theme will be announced on that day. So everyone starts from the same place at the same time. You don't get any head starts. You're not allowed to use any existing projects, but what you can do is you can use existing assets or other things that you want to like cannibalize another project and start using pieces of that into your game. Those are allowed, but no like fully fledged projects. And the reason for that is because we want you to build it from the ground up around the theme that we choose. So for this event, you're allowed to have teams of 4 people. So you can either be by yourself or you can have 4. And then throughout the month, there's going to be community touch points. That's why we have it a month long, so we have time to, so you have time to make your game because we all know you guys are busy. But also we want to put in like check-ins, feedback sessions, and collaborative moments. Last year, we had several very interesting discussions around game development and tools that you can use to help accelerate your productivity in creating your game within the short amount of time. And then at the end of the month, we'll be doing final presentations where you get to demo your game or explain your ideas. And also, we'll have a panel of judges. So similar to how earlier we had ACM UTSA talking about rowdy hacks, we'll have a similar panel of judges that will judge the game that you create, which could potentially lead to placement of first, second, third. Last year, we had someone from Dallas come all the way down and participate, and they won first place in our competition in the first Velocicode. So a little bit about why we're doing this. ACM San Antonio and the Greater Game Society, we're putting this together to take advantage of the community that we're a part of, the tech community that we're a part of, and connect people together for creative ideas for creating a video game in a short amount of time. But the thing that I think is most important about these types of events is it kind of forces you, if you participate in it, you're kind of forcing yourself to interact with more diverse ideas and create content around a collective group of ideas. And some video games that exist today are the product of events like these. So I don't know if you guys have heard of a video game. I believe it's called Surgeon Simulator that came out, I think it was like in 2013. That game was a product of a game jam. But aside from that, you don't really need to be an established game developer. You don't even need to be established at any game development experience. We accept anybody coming in and participating at any level of knowledge. We're a learning first initiative, so that's why we have it open for an entire month with those sessions, so you can come and learn. But yeah, so it'll be on July 1st is when the first day starts. But I recommend, if you're interested, find a team, put it together, and come join us in this space. There's a meetup link on the screen. So if you go to Meetup, you'll be able to see the page here. Let me go over to that window real quick so I can scroll down so you can see a little more information. A location hasn't really been established for our first meeting space, but if you subscribe to this RSVP early, you should get updates on that one whenever we fill that in. So, yeah.
Thank you, Gene.
Yeah.
Save the date, July. And also save the date. ACM's next event is March 11th, happening here at Geekdom. Beyond the Form is what's happening here. But again, how do we find this stuff? How do I stay connected? JavaSA.community, event calendar, one calendar for 23 different groups. But thank you, Gene. Up next, we're going to introduce. Hey, you got to go potty break?
No. Well, I mean, this is break. That's why you got to a little bit of work.
Dear Dad. Dear Dad. You guys want to stretch break? Yeah, it's going hardcore. That's cool. Okay. We'll do a quick 5 minutes. The idea was get through kids. Thank you, everybody. Just to kind of stay on schedule, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Angel here. Angel's going to essentially go over really one of the big questions that has been asked by a lot of folks. Is like, what do we focus on now? The code is doing a vocal percentage of our work. Like, what do we focus on as builders, as developers? And that's something that Angel will be introducing. Fun random story about Angel. He's the lead developer at a company in town called Webhead. I won't share this. I'll share the story at the happy hour because it's a happy hour type story because it involves a lot of yes. Angel.
Hey! Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming. So my name is Angel Escobedo. I'm a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for about 7-8 years now. And the reason why I'm here is because I downloaded Claude Code a couple weeks ago, and when I used it, it freaked me out a little bit because I saw it do something that, I mean, my day-to-day right now is just copying my code onto ChatGPT, copying those files over, moving them over to my files, running them, testing them, going back and forth, doing that all day, essentially. But when I installed Claude Code and I was watching it take my prompts and not only just write the files directly, but running it, testing it, and fixing itself, and doing all of that without me in the loop, it kind of freaked me out because I thought it was reaching a level that I wasn't even really aware of. And I was already at a point where I was working on developing something internal, like an AI internal platform for Webhead. So not exactly using ChatGPT, but kind of using some kind of agent just for some basic internal workflows, right? Just maybe sending emails or tracking Jira or doing something like that. And I spent months trying to build something out, and I couldn't really get to a point where it was in a state where it was good. I must have spent 8 months, even using ChatGPT to build it out. I must have spent like 8 months building something, not really liking it, tearing it down, building it up, doing that over and over again. And when I installed Claude Code, I had kind of just given it all of the documents that I had, trying to build something out, and it was able to build something in 8 minutes, like 8 minutes and 42 seconds, right? So an entire platform with everything that I had given it, it was just different. It was different. And when you take a look at what's on the news, a lot of articles are saying the same thing, where the AI apocalypse is coming. They're using words like bloodbath, like white-collar jobs they're done, they're being eliminated, we don't need them anymore. AI can code just as well. The mid-level engineers, CEOs are saying the same thing. We have AI CEOs saying we're not hiring anymore because AI can kind of do everything that they need to do, right? We don't need them anymore. Salesforce, they mentioned they're not going to hire anybody here. So it's just a lot of doom, right? A lot of just doom and gloom. People saying that we're not going to need coders to do any of that anymore. And I was at a point where I was just thinking, maybe I should listen to what they're saying, right? Maybe these guys are actually in the space, they're tech CEOs, AI CEOs. I should listen to what they're saying, right? Maybe they have a better idea of what's going to happen than I do. But let me show you something else. This is a timeline of every single time Elon Musk has said that full self-driving is coming to Tesla. And I mean, he's been predicting it ever since 2013, right? Like next year, I super promised it's coming. Following year, I pinky promised it's coming. In 2021, he said full self-driving will be solved this year. I would be shocked if it was not done next year. That was 5 years ago, right? So CEOs are going to do a very good job of like hyping it up, letting you know that this technology is cutting edge. It's alien technology, right? And it is. I use it every day. I love it. It's changed the foundation of what I've learned to do code. But to say that it's going to do everything for you, it's just not. I'm not at the point where I believe it, right? It's not really at a point where I think you're not going to have a job anymore. Like you don't have a role in what we're doing. It's not. That's just my perspective, right? You're still valuable, and I can kind of give you an example of why I believe that that's the case. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Docker Compose. So I kind of just added a little snippet of code here. And what I was tasked to do, and I'll give you some context into what this is. We had a production Mongo database server, and it was running in a Docker Compose. It was running, at least for this particular client, it was running an old version of Mongo 6. And I just asked Claude at the time, hey, how do I update this? I need to update it from 6 to 7, or sorry, 6 to 8. What does that look like? And they gave me some, gives you like a very long text, and it says, oh, you first have to update it from 6 to 7, and then 7 to 8. It's got to be incremental, right? And I don't know if anybody can kind of tell what's the problem here. It's a very, very minor problem. And I'll kind of walk through what it's telling me to do, right? So it wants you to kind of go to the Mongo container, set this flag from 7, since we're at 6, and then it wants you to restart the container. And it seems pretty fine. It seems pretty normal. It's just 3 lines of code that you're running, but I can't point to it online. But this flag right here, this little V, that would delete your entire database. So it would just delete everything. It wouldn't make a backup. It would just kind of drop it all. So AI is pretty good. It's not completely there yet, where it can do everything for you. You still need to be there to kind of audit a lot of what it's doing, a lot of what it's trying to do for you. So that's just an example, right? And then just to kind of go back to what I said at the very beginning, when I had given Cloud Code all of my documentation for building out at least just an MVP of the platform that I was building out, I had already spent months building out the design of what I wanted it to do. I kind of spent a lot of time, even when I was using AI, I was building out the diagrams, I was building out the features, APIs, the routes, the data schemas. I was already kind of mapping out what I didn't want and what I did want it to have. And only because of all of that context that it did have, it was able to make something in 8 minutes. So it's easy to kind of credit AI with doing that for you, but a lot of that, you still have to do a lot of the engineering with your applications. You still have to spend a lot of time, just actually, maybe the delivery part is different, or you're not having to spend a lot of time actually coding everything, but the engineering part is still there. That's still something that you're going to have to do. So just to kind of go back to what the title of my talk was, and I kind of started most of this for myself. I wanted to share most of this with you guys as well. There's still a lot to do to software engineering. There's still a lot that you can do, a lot that we need to do to kind of get the job done. It's not going to take us all the way there. I still use it every day, even though I'm kind of saying, it's not perfect. I still use it every day. I don't think I've written a line of code or maybe an entire function of my own in a couple of months, maybe even longer than that. But there's still some thought you have to do into it. And maybe this is just the application development part. We kind of heard a lot of talks on building out a lot of the AI infrastructure. That's even a realm where you even need more people. So a lot of that's still in there. Work that needs to be done, stuff we need to do. And yeah, that's kind of like the highlight of my talk. I kind of just wanted to ease a little bit of the anxiety and some of the panic that's kind of out there. AI is not going to do everything for us. It's not going to get rid of what everyone's doing and what we're trying to do, even for us and engineers or white-collar jobs or anything else that's out there. There's still going to be a pretty good role for us, for the humans out there. And yeah, that's it. yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Angel as far as, go ahead, Gene.
Yesterday, while at work, I had a problem finding artificial intelligence. They tried to do a git commit, hash m, and open the double quote, and then it never actually closed the double quote, so it kept trying to run commands after that.
Yeah.
And it kept adding additional commands to the git commit message. the biggest mistake you've made so far?
This was pretty close. I wouldn't say I've caught it really do anything. I did cut a slide just to kind of save a little bit of time, but
Bring the slide back on.
no, but what I was gonna say is that it's really good at doing things that you know how to prompt it to do. So if I'm in the realm of something that I understand really well, I kind of understand what to prompt it. I know how to craft that prompt, and I feel like in my experience, it kind of starts going a little crazy when you ask it to do something you're not really too familiar with, especially if you can't review it. I've kind of had to try to build something out that I don't really understand, and it kind of goes into a space where I can't really review it all that well. So it probably has done a lot. I just try to stay away from kind of having it do stuff that I don't really understand because I can't review it all that well.
Oh, we got a question. Hey, Lewis.
Customizations with what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
I mean, I have. I think it's pretty flexible. I think there's a lot you can do with it. I can give you an example. So I recently, and it's a little, I hope it's not too boring, but I had an example we had an AWS account, and we were kind of hosting that for a client for a long time. So for about 4 or 5 years, we were kind of building it, hosting EC2s, RDS, setting up VPCs and security groups and all that kind of stuff. There's a little bit more to it. Like we set up Lambda, step functions, we have S3 buckets, and it kind of grew into this monster, right? But it was really difficult to maintain. And earlier this week, I had kind of I kind of trusted AI to use Terraform and the AWS CLI to kind of go in there, list all the resources that it could, and then generate those Terraform files for me. So that's I don't know if that's the example you were looking for, but it's kind of something that I did do, just to kind of build everything out.
That works. Well, thank you, Angel. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So we're on the home stretch. We're going to do our 2 final community spotlights, and then we're going to close it out with our security block in here. So we're going to segue to Ron here in a second. So with this spotlight, it's a tech startup. It's a company called Shanecraft. So I will have Ryan share your screen. You got the code to share the screen?
Oh, yes.
We're gonna have Ryan introduce this platform. We're gonna have Alamo Python follow him up and talk about the Texas Foundation and the big Texas conference that's coming up. That's coming up in the month of April in Austin, Texas. It's the largest conference in the state of Texas for Python developers, and then we'll have take over here. But Ryan, if you're ready,
I'm ready.
Shanecraft.
All right.
So Ryan, what is Shanecraft?
All right. Yeah, so I'm Ryan Beltran with Shanecraft. We're an AI game builder platform. But the problem actually is that game creation has actually gotten easy. And you wouldn't think that's the problem. Like, think about that, though. Right now, whenever there's a revolution, it's chaos at first. Like darkroom to digital, I was there. Like I actually went to college and I learned how to do film and photography in the digital or in the darkroom. And it was right when digital was like knocking at the door, starting to come in. And there was this, just everybody was either like embracing it or not. And I was like right in the middle. I liked both. I did like digital, that you could iterate fast. You could see how things turned out quickly. The quality wasn't that great, but it was a lot more approachable. It opened the doors to a lot more people to be able to, take on photography. And the same thing sort of happened with broadcast onto YouTube. And I feel like these mirror what's sort of happening right now in AI apps. And for me, I'm really, with Shanecraft, we're really into the game development side. So gaming is in the flood stage right now. So AI can generate a game, cool. Like you see that a lot. You see people posting about it. But does it have depth? Is there like a good story? Is there something like really deep with that game? Or are they just reskinning something or just the same old game and trying to share it with you and they're just excited they make the game? That's cool too, I guess. But really it's like, I keep thinking, what's like that deeper thing? What's a way that we can utilize these new tools with AI and not just have this environment flooded with more slop? So like early YouTube phase, everyone was uploading, nobody was watching. You had to really stand out. Quality isn't compounding right now, it's evaporating. So I think good ideas should be building blocks. And this kind of happened in YouTube, whether they kind of meant to or not, but people would come up with innovative ways that, with this new medium, and other people would be inspired by those ways and utilize those as well in the YouTube format. And we think with Chaincraft, we're trying to think in this way, like what mechanics for games we're actually building blocks, something that people could sort of cross-pollinate their mechanics within different games, almost like a repository for mechanics. So that every good idea makes a platform stronger, makes a community stronger. And maybe you could have those ideas or the way that that mechanic is used, maybe get you some revenue as well. So what are the missing pieces in this new world, this new like app builders with AIs and game builders with AIs? We want to stand out. We want to try to think of something different. And I'm not here just mostly pitching Chaincraft. I'm kind of like, this is always in my head. Like, why am I doing this? Is it something different that's already out there? And I think it is. I think at first, like first and foremost, why would somebody come to our platform and think about the creator? Like, is it something that they're going to want to use? Is there incentive to be there? And I think the thing that we really think about is like, can we get them revenue from their good idea? If they come with the good idea, can they build around it instead of have to build a whole game? Maybe we just have them come and build on that one idea. And we think things like remixing and forking are something that we don't see other platforms have as well. And the ability for games to actually be interoperable. Like if you had Steam right now, you can't take like items from one game and then go take it to another game. I think now with the AI ability to be part of this platform from the ground up from the very beginning, that's something that we find very interesting, is what if these games are actually interoperable. And at the end of the day, we really like this community first and building in that way, not like have a platform where you have a one-shot game builder that builds you a pretty crappy looking game that you can go back and like polish, try to make better, debug. It's a lot of work doing that. What is something that builds that game stronger and does it with the community? So sort of I want to end on that. Your taste is about to matter a lot more, not less. Like really AI, I don't think is going to replace taste. Maybe one, I don't know. But I think taste really ultimately is what's going to differentiate the good from the bad, and they're going to rise to the top. So just wanted to talk about that.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank y'all for having me.
So I guess in your case, because it is a business you're trying to activate what you are building, any needs from a developer tech community? You kind of just any call to actions? How do people find
Play
you?
testing. Honestly, we got beta play.chaincraft.games. It's all text-based right now. We mostly focused on just building the foundation of what I kind of talked about today. So anybody wants to check it out, please do so, and we would love your feedback because we want to grow with the community. It's also open source, so we welcome people to come and be a part of it. We want to incentivize getting y'all paid too and revenue. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. For our last community spotlight, we're going to have Daniel kind of come in here and talk about, so Daniel's one of the organizers of Alamo Python, the Python community in the city of San Antonio. They have an event coming up next week, a collaborative event with his dad and Knox, that he'll be highlighting. But the real thing that we're also super excited about is this PyTexas conference and Alamo Python and DevSA's fantastic relationship with that PyTexas Foundation. Funny random fact, the Python Software Foundation was really the first big group that gave DevSA the green light to sell the Python logo commercially. So when I was like dabbling with trying to get creative at the beginning of DevSA, they were like, oh, I was gonna see if you were wearing the shirt, but we did Python
Yeah.
Antonio. I built or I designed what I thought was a pretty cool Python logo, and I was like, I can see this in a hat and a shirt. And they were like, go ahead and do it. I was like, I love you guys. But Daniel, I don't want to take too much away, so I'll let you take over from here.
You see that? All right. So yeah, Jesse said, my name's Daniel, and I'm one of the co-organizers for Alamo Python. So yeah, I just want to quickly talk about who we are and some of the upcoming meetups and events, conferences. So yeah, like we're a community-driven Python meetup for San Antonio, part of PyTexas, which is like the larger network. There's like various Python groups in like all the major cities. So myself with Richard, the other co-organizer, and Jesse, we kind of organize things for the San Antonio chapter, which we call Alamo Python. Yeah, so like basically, a typical development community for like, learning, collaboration, like a lot of the other groups in the space, but ours is, with the emphasis on Python. So we've been doing AI related stuff most of last year because that's been like the popular thing. And we try to make it for all the different experience levels. If, sometimes there are people like brand new trying to learn Python, but we've also had some more advanced stuff like going into like databases and that sort of thing. So monthly meetups, yeah. Last year we tried to alternate between tech talks and socials for our monthly meetups. So most of the tech talks, they were at various venues that we have, but the socials have been at Idle Beer Hall. The next one is coming up in March 5th at Zelifcam. That'll be a collaboration with the Datanauts. And then we kind of have a few more planned out through the year that are just kind of rough ideas at this point, but all of that will be on our meetup page. And I'll have also, I think, a slide where it links to our Discord. But yeah, I wanted to mention Pi San Antonio. We did our first conference last year called Pi San Antonio, which was our own local PyTexas conference. Turned out pretty good. A lot of people, a lot of great talks. So the plan will be to try to do those yearly, and those are usually going to be in the fall. So PyTexas is the name is both the name of the foundation as well as the conference that they do every year. So it'll be their 20th anniversary for this year. That one will be in April. In Austin is where they usually do them. So that's a 3-day conference. Yeah, if you get a chance, it's a great place to meet a lot of people in the Python space, and networking is great there. I was able to meet a lot of connections for like jobs and stuff like that when I was looking for a job. So great place to meet folks and get to learn more. Yeah, and that's basically it. Wanted to just mention, we're always looking for speakers. If anybody is interested in giving a talk, it could be like a full meetup around your talk, or it could be just a lightning talk. Yeah, there's links there for PyTexas. That'll link to the Discord. And then, of course, we're on Meetup. So all of our meetups are posted there as well.
And fun little fact about Daniel, as far as anyone that's sort of infrastructure, system architecture, our San Antonio DevOps guru is a very humble man, but definitely a go-to talent there. Also, fun fact about Daniel, makes his own homemade craft beer. So we were at Pi San Antonio. He made a nice little custom brew just for us. I dropped the ball for this one because I didn't ask him in advance to spin up another one for us. So my apologies in advance. But thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate you. And look at that Pi San Antonio shirt. Yep. Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. Sweet, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're approaching our final 2 talks of the day, and we're going to close out more human than human. So again, talking about the different lenses, find your people, build your future. We're going to now talk to some security specialists in the city of San Antonio. We're going to be introducing Jersey here in a second here. But yeah, what excited me about Jersey and we met through so security events in San Antonio. B-Sides is a big one that happens at St. Mary's University every year. That's when we first got connected. And as far as local groups, for anyone that is in the security hacking space, we got DEF CON group that do events last Thursday of the month at Northeast Lakeview College. And then we also have the San Antonio Hacker Association. Funny enough, they do their monthly events inside of a dance studio. Really legit, by the way. Like it's like nightclub vibes, like Blade Runner, like holy shit. But with that said, I'm excited to close out the final block of More Human and Human, focusing on security, because that's really that's been the big vocal concern with the AI tooling, spitting out code for novice and experienced developers. Like, who's looking at this? What variables are being exposed? What's happening with the web? So I thought Dearsay and Jacqueline, who will be closing us out, was a perfect parallel to bring in for this topic here. But I will quit talking. Dearsay, the stage is yours. If you want to start sharing your screen, the man. Yay, Dearsay! I love that guy. And while he's getting mic'd up, just a friendly reminder, we're still pushing for that 5 o'clock hard stop. We'll do our official networking down below at Double Standard, so street level of the historic Houston Street. We have the outside patio reserved, so we're all going to be able to kind of migrate that way together and have a good time. Thank you, Dearsay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to Jesse, thanks to the team for inviting me out. So I'm going to be talking about the partnership for teams to work. It's not every day you get to come and talk to developers and engineers and work with security professionals. So thank you for having me. Thank you. Risk management, right? So security and GRC, they matter now more than ever, right? So looking from the risk lens, regulatory compliance lens, trust and transparency, and safeguarding innovation, that's really important. So if you look at all those pillars and those tenets, right? Teams have to really be aware of that to understand that we're all one team, one effort, right? We're all kind of working in the same space, and we all have our different priorities and objectives. We're all trying to improve the security organization that we serve, right? So it's really important. From a GRC lens, because I'm going to touch very little on GRC today, but these are really important things as it comes to AI enablement, right? So immutable audit logs, peer reviews, that credible challenge, everything, make sure everything's documented, all your configuration changes are adjudicated, right? Govern AI as an identity, right? Identity access management is going to be critical here. And then logging, all things log, and securing all your login relevant practices in your environment. So bridging, like I mentioned, bringing those developers and security teams together, right? They must share accountability for all AI system security, integrating those principles of security early in development lifecycle. We talked about shift left. I talked about, shift 10 ways from yesterday, right? So, I mean, it's just not left anymore. With AI, with the amount of speed, the amount of churn that's happening in the space, you really need to be adopting as early as you can and embedding security in your pipelines, in your lifecycle early on, right? Continuous communication, have that dialogue, have that communication between your security teams, your expert AI teams, to make sure that you evolve alongside any particular challenge, any sort of story, user story, agile development, what have you, right? Work with your expertise to bring that critical threat intelligence, cyber threat intel, right? Through vetted feeds like recorded future, anomaly, whatever you use, Mandiant, whatever you're bringing into your CTI environment from that perspective, leverage that particular feeds into the environment, right? Last but not least, building that trust and culture, building that level of security awareness, barrier to entry in the sense of sharing those same goals as you have all your AI plans in place, and understand what's under the hood, understand what's happening in your environment. So you have challenges, right? You're going to have good things and bad things. So when it comes to the collaboration with your developers, have the priorities laid out, right? Have those common challenges adjudicated and worked through. So you can have a foster culture of shared responsibility and understanding who's on the hook for what, right? Security doesn't want to be seen as a blocker, right? Things are churning, they're innovating so fast. They want to be something that can enable the business, enable the organization, right? So implement those regular cross-team meetings with your teams to avoid those communication gaps, those pitfalls, right? Having that process misalignment adjudicated through incorporating security with your developers early on in the life cycle, like I mentioned, to reduce any bottlenecks or potential avoid any bottlenecks from happening. Having those constraints, limited staffing, tight deadlines, things you can't really control, focus on finding the best thing you can do with the amount of resourcing you have, the amount of full-time employees you have to get to where you need to go, right? And then last but not least, trust, right? The trust issues that have been permeating throughout years, right? Security's always been seen as a bad, bad partner in the past. Kind of put that on the back end and then just focus on the today and the now and the future, right? If you have that and you build transparency to joint training, working together, having tabletops, lunch and learns, whatever it is you're doing to contribute, you're going to be dealing with that situation in a good way, right? Cyber threat intel is also a team sport, right? So having effective AI depends on seamless collaboration between your developers and the security team working through cyber threat intel, right? So just high level, right? That CTI is going to provide that real-time threat data, that telemetry that's embedded to inform those models and those training updates that are happening on the back end when your architects, your engineers, having security look at any vulnerabilities, run SaaS, DAS, cloud CNAP vulnerability scans into the environment at all times. The developers might be aware of, or they need to know from the security team, letting them know they have critical high vulnerabilities in the environment, right? Having that shared intelligence enables fast response to emerging threats, reducing risk exposure. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to reduce risk at all times, right? That's never going to stop. It's an ongoing machine. Collaboration, ensuring those systems are designed with security in mind, integrated from the inception, like I mentioned, not as an afterthought or a one-time set it and forget it yearly activity. That's not working anymore. Has anyone heard of the NIST AI RMF? Right, NIST does have an AI RMF out there. So work through that, and that's going to be your framework of reference from AI enablement from a risk perspective. So have threat detection, anomaly detection, work through those things to help emerging threats, having real-time enhancing situational awareness, early warning capability, defensive action and mitigations, thwarting the attacks, dealing with those attacks, right? Getting those mitigation strategies with your teams using the AI RMF as your framework of reference, right? And then having risk modeling, threat modeling, that's where threat modeling is going to be critical here to map those controls, map those risks, and making sure that you have full visibility, there's no gaps in your environment in regards to what AI is doing, what the security around those AI models are doing, and what teams are doing on day-to-day to encapsulate that. So practical developer security impact from your developer teams, right? Incorporating that intel, that telemetry into your pipelines, extrapolate that intelligence and embed it to your environment, right? That's going to be the best thing you can do to drive proactive threat modeling into your adversarial risk identification, embed that AI system with continuous monitoring. It's never a one-time stop, right? It's never set it and forget it. It's continuous. Real-time detection improves resiliency on the resilience side. So think, something happens, the AI model goes down. How do you deal with that, right? How do you adjudicate for that? Security teams use that CTI for runtime behavior, real-time control and defense, right? So they're going to learn from these things and get better time and time out, right? Has anyone heard the OWASP top 10, right? So they're out there, right? It's really good guidance to integrate those benefits, those challenges and limitations on what you can do to enhance vulnerability prioritization, deal with, intelligence feeds, reliability, timeout sessions, right? Complexity issues, but just kind of take the good and the bad, right? There's got to be like a fine balance when it comes to security and innovation. So having these things delineated, accounting for them, see where they're at, make you understand, have a really good footprint and what your threats are, what your risks are, and where you're at in that process, right? That journey. So look at all these things, and they're all basically helping you indicate, identify potential risk in your environment. Has anyone heard the OWASP Gen AI project, right? That's another project that they have going on to deal with emerging AI risks, right? Relevance when it comes to MITRE ATT&CK framework, MITRE Atlas for AI ML dedicated systems, monitoring capabilities, right? So running that intelligence-driven control mindset is going to be critical to use resources such as the Gen AI project, MITRE Atlas, MITRE ATT&CK to get you where you need to be, have full visibility into potential threats, depending on what models you have enabled in your environment. So going back to that, rounding it up, having that comprehensive visibility, governance enablement, control enforcement, all these things are going to help with supply chain issues, right? ensuring compliance and risks are mitigated at all AI operations, not just buying something off the shelf or out of the box, but seeing it through from conception when you're building out contracts all the way through to the end, right, cradle to grave. So imagine that really important relationship and how that will look like from building, from growing, from sustaining, to executing in the deployment, production environment. Governance is huge, right? Show of hands, who has an AI policy in their shop, an acceptably used AI policy? Well, that's good, but I think everyone's hand should be raised. If you don't, you have a gap, right? So policy, incorporate roles and responsibilities, understand who's on the hook for what. So think like a AI RACI, right? Responsible, accountable, informed, communicative, right? All that sort of stuff is going to help you deal with MCP server alignment, agents, automation pipelines. Everything that's scoped out in your environment when it comes to AI enablement needs to be adjudicated from a governance lens. It needs to be handled from a governance lens. Because you don't have governance, you don't have control. You don't have a footprint into what's actually happening. Like I mentioned, policy framework, having an AI acceptable use in place, right? Shift left as early as you can. Have, third-party supply chain risk. It starts with that, right? Inventory. Has anyone heard of S-bomb or A-bomb, right? Software bill of materials, have that information out there. Building your playbooks with your cyber threat intelligence, with your AI modeling enablement, and that's going to give you a really good idea of what's under the hood, right? What you can do to thwart particular situations when it comes to AI risk. Governance, once again, is at the helm, running these things, right? Contextualize the risk using cyber threat intel, right? Your asset inventory. So anything, your LLMs, your RAGs, your vector DBs, right? Your models. MITRE ATT&CK, incorporating that, MITRE Atlas, the OAuth Gen AI situation. Look at your data-bound ingress, egress, right? Look at your perimeters. Look at your overlays. Look at the risk around these. Look at the APIs you have enabled, right? How they're making those calls, right? Are you scanning those APIs internally? Not only, or are you only dealing with routable internet routable APIs, right? What's your scoping of that, right? Bringing that in to include that in the risk register. Document where they live. Understanding that you have full visibility into your environment, you're going to really be able to deal with tactics, tools, and procedures for the adversaries. You're going to be able to deal with how they deal with financial aspect of the tools that they're leveraging and procuring and implementing, along with deployment. So all these tools are contextualizing risk management into AI. That's what we're doing here. Has anyone heard the word threat modeling, right? So that's huge. And more things should be working through incorporating threat modeling to the environment. And it should be the first thing you do, probably even before a security risk assessment, right? Having those integrated frameworks, mapping those threats to those potential issues, and having those, single pane of glass CTI feeds, helping you understand what the adversaries are doing, what's the trends in the environment, depending on what model you're using, depending on technology that's in scope, and understand what vulnerabilities can actively be exfiltrated or done in the environment as far as your data is concerned, right? So that's really important. And this is going to cross-cut all the domains, guys. It's going to cross-cut IAM, GRC, security, DevOps, right? So understand it's like one team. That's why I mentioned one team, one effort. Partnerships is going to be more critical now than ever to make sure that everything's cross-cutting across all your control domains, and you have a really good footprint on what's actually happening and have that visibility, right? So you can report back to your leadership on the things that you're saying, see something, say something, something's off. You need to kind of have that documented and then express that to the environment. Training, right? I can't say this enough, right? Training, developers, right? So code path, validation checks, permission set. So everyone has to be trained internally from our day-to-day, but trained from a holistic governance perspective and the strategic perspective, right? Strategy, secure GRC, leadership, incorporating that beyond SOC information, beyond alerts, right? It's going to be critical to improve the threat response, the overall resiliency of everything as it relates to AI, right? Training is critical, right? I mean, you ask someone, what do you have in your shop? I have Copilot. Okay, well, are you training your employees on Copilot? Are you training them how to use Copilot? What are they doing with that, right? What does that even mean to them? So from a governance perspective, this is going to be more and more predominant with C-suite leadership, boardrooms. Look at that. Malicious prompts block. That's a metric. That's a KRI, KPI. That's going to be incorporated into boardrooms, right? Sign validated tools. That's just a hypothetical metric, but more and more teams are going to be looking at these sorts of things from misuse, unauthorized data attempts. More and more of these numbers are going to start coming up and reporting to your leadership team on slide decks that nobody likes to do, and get ready for the C-suite and your 5 minutes of fame with the CFO, CIO, CTO, but it's going to continue to do, right? That's going to happen. Has anyone heard of maturity assessment? Any cybersecurity maturity assessments, folks in the house, right? Well, guess what? We're going to have to deal with maturity on the AI side, right? And I think right now, most of us are probably level 1, level 2, right? If you feel you're level 3, level 4, come and talk to me after that, right? Because, we're not there yet. We're still growingly moving into that direction. But that really gives you a good idea what the things to look out for, derivatives and delineations of a level 1 implementation to a level 5, right? Optimization. That's nirvana, right? That's we're years on in on that, and everything's going to be used to benchmark the maturity, identify any gaps, communicate that progress to any relevant stakeholders that have skin in the game. And let's face it, guys, we all have skin in the game. That's basically the name of the game, right? Everyone has a skin in the game here. The new attack surface, right? Now AI brings a different perspective on the attack surface, right? MCP as your brokers, right? They're just not APIs. They're communicating that delegated authority, that mapping, that chain action, command and control, right? Expanded security scoping. The flaws are going to be a little bit more pervasive and prevalent in the environment with tools, APIs, amplifying that risk, amplifying that impact to the organization, right? High risk scenarios, right? Prompt injection, silent tool modification, over permission tools, token leakage, data exfil, all that is going to be critical now with AI in the mix, right? Treat the LLM as an untrusted orchestrator. So think zero trust, right? Kind of the zero trust paradigm. You're going to apply that to that, right? Not a trusted caller to mitigate the risk in your driven workflows. It's really important to understand that surface and what that means for you and the team, right? Tooling. Everyone loves their tools, but it's what can be the biggest risk, right? You got to have cryptographic signing of your tools, pinning and version approval of the tools, validating that metadata, because those tools can be used against you, right? In a potential situation where that AI is not doing something right, or is that something that it should be doing, and you're going to be able to capture that with these sorts of controls on the tooling you have on your cloud environment, open, whatever it is that you're working through. You have to have these things in line in your environment, in the enterprise, to deal with these risks that we weren't really thinking about 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? Because this just came to the fold and just exploded. So AI agent deployments, right? Just to kind of bring it full circle, you do have the rise of autonomous AI agents out there. So understand OpenClaw, right? I mean, kind of scary that that thing got together and decided to shut people out to do stuff and pretty scary stuff, but it learned on something, right? So it's not sentient yet. We're not at Terminator level yet, right? And hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's learning and it's becoming more aware. Models are coming up every 3 months as opposed to every year. So we got to just keep up, and it's impossible to be keeping up. I heard that today. It's impossible to be keeping up, right? Keep those agent properties, having those risk management challenges to deal with AI security risk assessments, threat modeling. All these things are going to help with new attack surface when it comes to AI. So this is really interesting, guys. So it's all about the lens, right? A single vulnerability, like a SQL injection vulnerability, can have vastly different consequences in the world of AI, right? In a read-only reporting agent, SQL injection might just deal with data leakage, right? An automated trading agent can have persistent memory, broad access tools. That same vulnerability can trigger systemic failure, affecting multiple systems. It's cascading, right? The blast radius increases tenfold because there's just so many different things that it's touching, right? Agent autonomy and persistence can have more potential damage in the environment, turning simple exploits into cascading threats. Risk assessment must consider the deployment context to accurately prioritize mitigation strategies and efforts to communicate the risk footprint and the risk profile to the environment. So, if risk wasn't hard enough already with cybersecurity risk, it just got crazier with AI risk. Some of the challenges in quantifying that risk, right? There's no standardized scoring mechanism right now, right? Current vulnerability frameworks do not account for unique agentic AI factors like autonomy, AI access, leaving organizations not consistent method to assess risk severity, right? Having that prioritization challenge, right? Who's doing what and what's more important to them than to you, right? So security teams struggle to rank risk effectively. Traditional scores overlook how agent-specific features amplify vulnerabilities, causing misallocation or mitigation of resourcing. And then the communication gap, once again, team effort, everyone needs to be talking to each other, right? Lack of clear quantifiable risk metrics hinders CISO security leaders from conveying the true impact of the AI agent vulnerabilities to the C-suite, to the board, because they just cannot make two heads or tails what's happening, and that's not good. So this is hot off the presses. I just put this slide last night. So has anyone heard of the CVSS score, right? We all know about CVSS score. We have AIVSS scores, which is not new, but now they're incorporating with A1C, right? So basically how you're scoring your vulns, right? How you're accounting for the vulnerabilities. But I'm just gonna touch on the last point right now. A1C is the standard for AI agent safety, security, and reliability. So they have a partnership formed a couple days ago, right? That's gonna offer a comprehensive list of controls, enabling security leaders to quickly move from risk identification to risk mitigation. They use the AIVS scores, focus on those agents specifically for risk mapping, directly to controls, and doesn't require an additional layer of translation or overlay, right? Because you have more and more and more. Another thing we got to worry about, right? Another metric, another scoring system. You know, developers just throw their hands in the air like, I don't want to deal with that crap. They don't. And I get it. I talk to them every day, all the time, right? Core security risks, just to bring it full circle. Agentic AI tool misuse, that's huge. Agent access control validation, agent cascading failures, agent orchestration, multi-agent exploitation, agent identity impersonation, agent memory and context manipulation. So think of this like top 10, the things really people need to really look out for when they have AI enablement in their shop, right? Insecure agent critical systems interaction, agent supply chain and dependency. So think A-bomb, S-bomb, right? Agent untraceability, agent going instruction manipulation, right? So how they manipulate those agents, how those agents can be manipulated, that's also another risk, right? Then you start getting to the bias risk and how the bias is implemented and incorporated into the agent. So you have to account for all these things as you build your security program and your security imperatives in the environment. For your DevSecOps folks, right? You want to have these things aligned. Talk about secrets, right? Secrets management, containerize. If you do Docker, whatever you're doing for your Kubernetes, whatever you're doing for your containers, make sure they're, handled the right ways, properly secured, right? Network security, having that pipeline enforcement, having integrated like Snyk into the pipeline as much as you can, churn and burn, right? Assume that compromised mindset. Don't expect that you've been breached. Act like you've been breached and adjudicate that, right? Design your environment assuming breaches have occurred, limits the blast radius through isolation, strict controls, rapid incident response. So now you're talking about red teaming, and those teams are, threat hunting in the environment as well. Always on, right? Continuous validation. This is never going to stop, guys. Having your SaaS, your CNAP, Wiz, any Wiz folks? I love Wiz, right? CSA tools, having that monitoring controls, having that SIM, anomaly detection, having a SOAR platform, building those playbooks with telemetry-driven, recorded future, anomaly, whatever you're using for your, threat intel framework or appliance, incorporate that into the environment. You need to do all these things to always have that continuous validation, always on security. Traditional and AI, right? So before we were looking at perimeters, right? Segmentation, IAM, we still do, right? But now AI brings it tenfold, right? Exists agents inside the context window, acting as a runtime trust boundary, dynamic and data-driven, changing with the agent's inputs operations, includes components like system prop, tooling interfaces, memory layers, focus on controlling agent behavior, your inputs, external action permissions, requires continuous threat modeling of inputs, tools, and memory for robust production. So we have the traditional boundaries that were known today. Now you're incorporating additional boundaries that have to do with AI agents, right? So now you're making it a little bit more arduous on security teams to encapsulate and cover all the ground, which is pretty crazy, right? RAG, data supply chain, I'm just gonna focus on this one real quick. Just understand that a lot of the risks come from the third-party side of the house, end party, fourth party. So AI models are not gonna be anything different. A lot of organizations are doing AI already. They're embedding AI in their environment, in their programs, in their applications. So having that data supply chain, RAG pipeline, handled and reviewed and assessed is going to be really critical. So threat modeling, like I mentioned, building those agencies, right? Having that access for those tools, having that retrieve data and memory persistence for your tooling is going to be critical as you're building. as you're building those agents, as you're moving and maturing in your journey of AI enablement, right? In summation, right, so system prompting, tool schemas, rack pipelines, memory stores, context distillation of those models is really paramount. All these things need to be handled to define the new security boundary that we have thanks to AI, thanks to the AI models, thanks to the AI enablement in the environment. This one's pretty funny, right? So misaligned ownership, right? The security team focuses on that. They assume engineering owns the context-related stuff. Engineering thinks that security is responsible for authorizing these things, right? So they're kind of like pointing at each other, and then governance is like, what are y'all doing, right? GRCs, they're like, hey, you gotta get together and do this right. And more misalignment is happening when it comes to data classification, data ownership, data stewardship for the AI models. And it's really hard to delineate that. That's why you have to have really good data security posture management, data governance controls in the environment. Any water boy fans in the house? The water boy? Yeah. All right, we'll get there. We're almost there. Security monitoring tools, let's do it, right? Limitations and opportunities. This is a time that we need to understand how you're going to be able to look at those things in the environment, how you're going to be able to effectively secure them, effectively handle them, and understand that it's a team sport. That's why I mentioned partnerships, working with DevOps, working with GRC, working with the architects, working with everyone. I mean, everyone has skin in the game, right? So to kind of more human and human key summaries, dynamic data-driven decision-making, having the model deployed, having that security boundary delineated, and understand what that means to you and your shop. If you have these three things in line, you're starting off on the right foot. If you don't, you're behind the 8 ball, bottom line, right? So in conclusion, if security teams can't confirm the review of an AI agent's context, there's a gap, right? There's a problem, right? When answers to who reviews the system prompts, the schemas, the resources, the pipelines, when they ask you about the context distillation, the answer is, I don't know, or there's a no. That means that there's a revealed unmonitored authorization activity happening in the boundary. This gap leaves AI agents vulnerable to risks that traditional security tools are not going to be able to detect or prevent, right? That's what it comes down to. And those waterboard fans, AI is not the devil, right, mama, right? Look at Bobby Boucher. AI can help with GRC, risk scoring automation, having those controls, having the AI RMF, and you have Rob Schneider saying you can do it, right, with CTI done right, keeping those AI risk in check, having that monitoring, mitigation, securing AI, and all that. So that concludes my presentation. That's my QR code for my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect, have continued conversation, and thank you.
But Mom said.
Mama. Yeah.
No, I love it.
It's a lot, guys. Sorry. Drink for the higher host. I get it.
It's all good. No, any questions for Dear Sake?
Yes, sir. Cyber threat intelligence. It's a platform. So look at Recorded Future, Anomaly, Flashpoint, Mandiant, right? So look at those vendors, and they do a lot of vetting, telemetry from outside resources. So I was in the FSISAC Insider Threat Working Group, so we work directly with those teams to feed Stick Taxi, look at Stick Taxi feeds into your environment, and that's gonna kind of help feed the information for your cyber threat teams in the mix. Yes.
Nice. Any other questions for Dear Sake?
Yes, sir.
What's the rug pull technique?
The rug pull technique is based on having the rag and the pipeline, so we can touch base online. I mean, they call it the rug pull because it's pulling the information from that environment, right? So on the pipeline, so we can look at that. Yeah.
Thank you again. I'm just totally grateful to have some rock stars in the community that, from the security lens, that just kind of lend their time to us here and just kind of give us that insight that we can all benefit from. But thank you again, Dear, for your time.
Appreciate it.
We'll definitely see you again. And thanks. And with that said, we're approaching.
It's a lot.
The website is v0.app. If you use this referral code, you get an additional $5 credit, but what they're giving us to allocate the $700 is V0 V0 more human credit code. That's pretty amazing. But feel free to use it. I'm going to be sharing a little link on our socials to follow up the event, just as we continue our partnership with V0 and their community platform. But with that said, Ms. Jacqueline will be making her way to the front. Ms. Jacqueline recently won the Geekdom Community Fund for her security platform called Magen. But the one thing that I love that Jacqueline was kind of bringing to the conversation was really just web traffic, as far as who's viewing your website, how are agents viewing your website, how is that impacting the data that you're maybe trying to capture. So it's just it's definitely more than just CAPTCHA, but I won't take too much of Jacqueline's story here. So I'll put Jacqueline, thank you for making time for us. And ladies and gentlemen, Jacqueline.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Sutton. So I started the company Imagine Trust. So it goes beyond zero trust, if anyone's familiar with that type of compliance. Authentication is just described as a one-time checkpoint, and so this is going into continuous verification and why it's important when it comes to proving humanity, what many consider to be an agentic internet. Now, the dead internet theory, I don't know how many of you heard of that. That's a very real thing, very real thing. And to be honest, these agents can steal your credentials off the dark web and they can pretend to be you. That's a very real threat that we see today when it comes to fraud against any type of part of the internet that touches money or the exchange of funds. And so here you can see that this is real credentials stolen, that we can see upwards of 51% of traffic in total is bots. And we're looking at about 4.8 million per breach. So this is costly when it comes to the finance sector. For when it comes to Magen Trust and the Magen tool, that is something for the finance sector we've seen a lot of traction. Now, what's the core thesis here? As a builder, why does proving humanity matter to you? The reason is a vibe-coded app can be exposed for obvious reasons we just delved into. AI to AI trust gaps, how they communicate to each other and what that looks like. And then, of course, every security layer downstream. How are you protecting yourself when it comes to that? This goes beyond the internet. This goes down to the Internet of Things, the Internet of Medical Technology, and what that means for you as a person, and even human-in-the-loop protocol. Now, when we look at the attack surface, we're talking every software interface as a potential target. We have public websites, web applications, API gateways, internal portals, and again, IoT management planes. So when we're talking about SCADA, that's like the supervisory control area and data acquisition. So we're looking at it from your car, a pacemaker, an insulin pump. These are different types of ways that we're trying to update the hardware, but if software touches it, there's exposing areas that AI can move faster than a human ever could. Today, whenever we talk about the internet, we actually have two different pathways, and I'm going to talk more about why Imagine Trust is one of the key parts of what helps this process. We're recommending a human site only and an agent optimized site. And because people are using agents to get information off of the internet the same way they would with a search engine. Your website, though, when you have bot crawlers and agents on there longer than 5 seconds, you're paying for that whenever it comes to your crowdsourcing tool. That's cost every single time. And that's not a human that you want in your funnel that's going to buy your product, that's going to do something you want to do, go to your events, and so on. Now, if you're still using reCAPTCHA, that's gone, completely gone. You can bypass reCAPTCHA and Cloudflare Turnstile and even MFA if the credentials are correct in authentication with something as simple as a Gemini prompt. That's not new news. It's something you can look up on Reddit today, and you can see people actually going through it just for the fun of it. So when it comes to reCAPTCHA and that kind of stuff, I would not use it. And to be honest, show of hands, who hates reCAPTCHA? Not fans. It's not good. It doesn't even work effectively, and you're getting spam that's coming in and using it right now. What we were able to do is around, you have invisible scoring, all these different things, device fingerprinting. These are defeated. These are no longer useful, and it's getting worse every single day. Imagine Trust is the trust layer for AI-powered applications. So what we're able to do is continuous behavioral verification, real-time bot signature capture, so no PII, no biometric collection. And then of course, developer first integration. Today we are GA, so we're able to actually get you in, get this on your site, and you're ready to go. We're prioritizing our developer first because what matters to us is collecting more bot signatures so we can feed this information when it comes to adversarial signatures into these types of industries that need the most to protect this type of hardware. This is something that we like to call an economic inversion model. I never like to think in absolutes. To say that a bot can never mimic a human doesn't really make sense, but we can make it really, really expensive with this type of technology, which then lessens the risks and then makes everything a lot safer to use. Here you can see a point-in-time check. It's not good. Whenever we looked at authentication today, once you put the credentials in place, it's going to think that you are exactly who you say you are. That's if you're applying for a loan. That's if you're talking to your loved one, or if your loved one's information has been jeopardized at some degree. Imagine Trust looks at continuous behavioral analysis, and then based on whether or not it believes you're human or not, that's the whole principle. That's the whole principle. So we're going beyond credentials. We're saying throughout this entire session, are you even a human? Or are you a non-human entity, which again is plaguing the internet and every version of software? Now, every single physical device has a dashboard. This is a central part of why Imagine Trust exists. We're talking about industrial. I know right now, if you guys pay attention to the news, we have Anthropic that was able to kind of crack the code for making changes to COBOL. It's a big deal. That's very old hardware and software that controls ATMs, that controls planes. This is very serious stuff that controls people's lives. You have medical stuff, so we're talking like anyone who wants to do something chaotic, they can damage the battery of the pacemaker if they're close enough to a person in proximity. Connected vehicles, push to drive. Raspberry Pi, it's not that hard. Smart buildings, if you have ADT and Amazon kind of talking component, and telecom. None of these have dashboards, but these are things that are internal dashboards. So we're not interfacing with these, but we use them without even thinking about it. They need the protection. So protecting the software that protects the hardware, here you can see that this is an attack chain that's enabling today, and these are things that have already happened. So we're talking a power grid, we're talking Cybertruck vulnerabilities with Teslas, medical IoT, what I just mentioned, and then agent session smuggling, which is the A2A kind of thing we're seeing even with Palo Alto. Again, this is how it works. It's a basic SDK that if you want to put this on your website or where you think is important within your tech stack today, if what organization you're at today and what that looks like, these are different ways you can go about it. Because it is API derived, it's very lightweight, easy to deploy, and we can even work with you to make sure it's something around a Python script. So when it comes to the builder's mental model, your software shield for hardware, we're not asking you to modify this stuff on a regular basis. We're just saying that if you have a human in the loop, or if you don't want humans in the loop, that should be something that's a continuously authenticated, verified thing that happens. And going more into the regulation wave, this isn't something that's going to happen later. This is now. So we're looking even with Europe, we're seeing a lot of stuff happen around the acts when it comes to where are your agents going? What data are they producing? Do you have that information when it comes to access to your environments? NIST, SOC 2, HIPAA, GLBA, these are all things that come into play when it comes to compliance for your software. So that's Imagine Trust. If you guys are ever interested, that's our website. I don't believe in sharing QR codes on these. Physical are great, but not on these. But yeah, we're trust that persists, and we're built because we need to be here. Thank you. Oh, where'd Jesse go? All right. You're fine. Well, I mean, questions, right?
I will play the role of Jesse. Jesse is making sure that our patio is still secured for the double standard after party.
Very important.
That being said, are there any questions for Jackie? I totally missed my cue.
Yes. So have you been in a situation where the agent or the API is implemented that technology cannot be implemented because the architecture does not allow an API extension? How do you work around that?
Yeah.
So thinking medical device, thinking, so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's when a Python script makes sense. Yeah, so that's when we're able to make those types of modifications. Is a fantastic question. You don't always put an API in a lot of places. Endpoint vulnerabilities are a serious thing. So Python is the way to go in most instances. Yeah, great question. Yes.
So
Asian probably knows, like Anthropic, like said, they published a report that a lot of the Chinese model companies were using distillation to train their models, right?
Yep.
So in your slide, you mentioned that you can do it mostly behaviorally.
Yes.
I understand. Without the PII. So if foundation companies like that are not able to detect it for months,
Mhm.
aside from the behavioral aspect, is there any other thing that you're doing that's kind of like eliminating the need for identification?
Yeah, no, great question. So this is a mathematically based system. My grandpa, he works around things called tetrahedrons. So he builds them at scale. So he's mathematically based in that way. Then it comes to these types of formulas and the ideal way to kind of predict the way they're going to be. There's a way that you can make it so long or so randomized. And we're kind of going more into kind of quantum, to be honest. These are areas that are very expensive to crack. And so that's kind of the way that we're going about it. And our approach so far has been really successful. So you have things like obviously blockchain, but I mean, agents can get into that now. Edge, same thing. Cryptographically, things that can be helpful. But when we start getting to post-quantum, we need to make sure that we're equipped to be able to handle that too. And again, that's why I always say we should never say that things are impossible, but we can make them way more expensive. Great question.
More. You have a geek.
From a component standpoint, where you think about the security from the device to the router to the server to the other server and back, what is the security of that component?
Yeah, usually we like to operate on the edge. But when it comes to the way that we have our just our total infrastructure, we have a hybridized approach with both on-prem as well as cloud.
So everything was on-prem for a number of different reasons, cost, compliance.
Yes.
And then also now we see where there's a shift to cloud, but there's a shift back to on-prem for a number of different reasons.
Absolutely.
Where do you fall in supporting shifting back to on-prem, but I have concerns about whether or not on-prem services could keep up with technology.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the type of data that you're sending and what you're doing with it. A lot of the ways that this works, it can send it to you in a certain environment without kind of jeopardizing what the origin is or the source or kind of what would crack the code and go backwards. For us, we've even had it where we've done like on-prem hosting just to make sure it's completely safe. And we're very privileged to be able to do that. Kind of like, yeah, like TPC, yeah, that kind of area. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for Ms. Jacqueline? Last call for questions. Thank you so much. Can you share how we can stay connected, how we can find Jacqueline and Megan?
Yes, so obviously go to the website. That's probably the best place. I'm also on LinkedIn. So all my information as a speaker, first name, last name, that's how you can find me on LinkedIn.
Love it. Cool. And with that said,
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't want to take this from you.
Thank you, Zachariah, for capturing the live stream. Zachariah has been my go-to on the side with DevSA. I label Zachariah my community champion. So with 23 active groups in the city, with my full-time schedule, and even with this full-time schedule, it's just the capacity to continue going out to events has been rough. It's been great to have someone like Zachariah on my side who's been able to be a great partner to kind of go to these events, get health checks, kind of see what needs can be filled or solved through DevSa's partners and relationships. So thank you, Zachariah, for always being there. Appreciate you. Thank you for the live stream. Marcus and Digital Canvas. So I love the platform. So Digital Canvas, for anyone that missed it in the beginning, it's really the collaborative partnership between 434 Media and DevSA. So we're committing to a quarterly schedule, and whenever you see Digital Canvas, it's essentially leveraging our community DevSA with their network to curate our audiences, our access to venues, our access to partners that are even beyond DevSA's original scope. So we're excited to continue to activate quarterly conferences, excited to activate workshops, and because it's a media company, truly activate the storytelling that we have access to, the video crews and storytellers that are part of our network. But more human than human. Excited to put this together. Excited to feature all of our speakers. So Wes and Daniel and Werner and Desir and we got Jacqueline and I'm filling in blankets. Thank you to everyone that spoke at the event. Thank you for everyone that attended. Thank you for the communities that came out to spotlight their future events. Xander in the back, thank you for bringing UTSA student orgs to the front lines so we can all see. And next stop is going to be the after party. So I just went down to the standard patio is reserved. We got the sign out there. So we can stay in here and network for a little bit, but we're going to ultimately make our way down to the Houston Street level and just kind of call it a night there. And definitely, before I forget, Lean Techniques. Thank you, Lean Techniques, for covering the food, the drink, and just kind of really helping us activate this event. So any questions before we say our goodbye to the conference portion and say hello to the networking side? No?
I want to give a big shout out to Jesse for putting on the song.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. And let's start networking and find our people. Build your future. Thanks, guys.